Ryoma Takebayashi is an 11-year-old boy who lives in the forest. He lives with almost 1,000 slimes. Slimes evolve differently depending on what they are being fed. Sticky slimes are being fed green caterpillars. The sticky fluid they form inside their bodies is made into a powerful thread that is helpful for hunting. Acid slimes have highly acidic body fluids that can dissolve hard things like bones. Poison slimes are the result of slimes that ate poisonous weeds and survived. Poison slimes have a strong vitality because they split faster than other slimes. Cleaner slimes clean things by eating dirt and grime and even getting rid of smells. Scavenger slimes eat excrement and garbage to make fertilizer. Ryoma usually runs into goblins and thieves and would have no choice but to fight them. Every day turns out to be the same for Ryoma except this day. While Ryoma is taking his walk, he sees some men calling out to their comrade Hughes not to die. He wonders what they are doing deep in the forest. One of the soldiers bearing Camille tells his comrades that he doesn't have enough magic left to heal Hughes. Ryoma walks in on them, and they wonder what a kid like him is doing alone in the forest. Ryoma hasn't talked to anyone in so many years that he has probably forgotten how to speak. After summing up words to them, he was able to communicate with them and give them a bottle of medicine to use to heal Hughes. He offers them his home as a place of rest, and they try to attack his slimes, but he stops them. The leader of the soldiers tells Ryoma about the days when he used to have slimes. He tells Ryoma that he is a former tamer and his family has been tamers for generations, having red horses and blizzard apes for familiars. They get to a dead end and Ryoma uses magic to open up the way and reveal the entrance to his home. When they enter, one of the soldiers bearing Zeph tells the leader that something is weird about the house. Zeph notices that there's only furniture enough for one, and they figure out that Ryoma is living alone. Seeing how he was able to get close to them without them knowing his magic, they suspect that he's older than he looks. Ryoma hands them more potions, which he made, and even offers them water. The soldiers are surprised to see this, and they wonder who exactly he is. Ryoma introduces himself to them, and the leader of the soldiers introduces himself as Reinhardt Jamil, the ruler of the Jamil Duchy. Jamil is a duke, while Camille is a mage. Everyone introduces themselves and what they do. Zeph is a scout, and the last of them is Jill. Jamil tells Ryoma that they were struck by bandits outside the forest, but it was nothing until they were attacked by a black bear which they beat. The black bear caused their horses to flee, and because they wanted to get Hughes to the town quickly, they had to cut through the forest, which is how they met him. Jamil asks Ryoma what he's doing in the forest when he can use all types of magic and still make potions. Ryoma replies that he learned from his grandparents who were former adventurers who died 3 years ago. The final words of his grandparents before they died were for him to go to another village, but as an outsider, villagers don't like him. Camille brings a crystal that shines red when it is touched by a criminal, and blue if the person isn't a criminal. The crystal also reveals vital information about such people like their name, race, age, and 4 of their high-level skills. He tells Ryoma that no one would oppose him living in the forest if he had powerful combat skills. Ryoma tests it out and Camille tells him that he doesn't have any combat skills. After Ryoma leaves to make dinner, Camille shows Jamil his skills, and Jamil knows they can't leave him in the forest, so he offers to talk to his father and Elise. While they were taking their leave, Hughes thanked Ryoma for saving him. He tells Ryoma that he's the Duke's bodyguard, and he can come to the town of Gaunago and rely on him if he needs any help. After they leave, Ryoma's head starts to ache after lying about his grandparents dying. The one who died was Ryoma. 3 years ago, Ryoma was an older man bearing Takebayashi Ryoma, having a hard time at work and living in a different place. On a particular day, Takebayashi finds himself in a strange place and meets with 3 divine super beings. People who have gotten to that place are usually more upset than Takebayashi is. He tells them that he's just surprised, but dreams eventually end and everyone dies one day. Takebayashi worked for what people call a black company with no day off, and this job ended up taking his life. Takebayashi meets with the divine beings. One of them is Gaian the Creator, the second is Lulutia, the divine being of love, and the third is Kufo, the divine being of life. They are divine beings from another world. Gain tells him that the reason he brought him there was for him to be reincarnated to another world in a body he created at 8 years old, and he won't have a great task. When he is sent to their world, a hole is made in the wall separating the 2 worlds, Earth and Sailfall. And when that happens, they'll send magical power from Earth to Sailfall. This is because Sailfall is falling out due to lack of magic, and Earth has a lot of unused magic. Gain suggests that they make it so that he can use all types of magic, which is rare, and since he tends to never be able to master any type. The divine beings gave him lots of advice and made him sign a contract that makes him unable to reveal to anyone that he's from Earth. After signing the contract, his new life begins, and he's told that he can talk to them with the oracle skill in the church. When Ryoma appeared in the new world, the The divine beings already prepared a manual for his new life, and just like an online game, all of his stats were for brute strength. Ryoma tests it out, and with just a kick, he cuts down a tree. He sees a slime, and because of his love for it, he quickly learns taming magic through the manual and uses it on the slime. Ryoma decided to live in the forest of Ghana. In his last life, he found it impossible to spend time on his hobbies, and that's why he decided to spend all his time researching slimes. And after 3 years, the first set of people he met were Jamil and his friends. 2 weeks after they leave, Ryoma returns to his usual life. Jamil and his friends arrive again alongside some others. Jamil and his friends arrive back to visit Ryoma, this time with his father, Reinbach Jamil, his wife, Eliza Jamil, and his daughter, Eliara Jamil. Ryoma thanks them for coming all the way there and apologizes for not being able to offer any hospitality, but Reinbach laughs and tells him not to worry. They talk about Ryoma's slimes, about how much they are, and Eliara asks Ryoma if they could fit in his house. He tells her that they've learned how to, and he describes it to her. The group of over 100 slimes of the same type are combined. They can also use a skill called Minimize to allow Ryoma to conserve space and food. Eliara finds it interesting, while Reinbach and Elise are surprised to see Ryoma tame a big slime. Elise tells him that no one has ever been able to tame a big slime before, as the taming contract has no effect on them, and she has never heard of such succeeding. He tells her that the big slimes appear like they only have one core, but it's just over 100 cores joined together. He tells her that entering a contract with 100 monsters at the same time is impossible, but he initially tamed 100 separate slimes and then joined them. Reinbach and Elise find this discovery amazing, and she tells Ryoma that he has solved the mystery that every tamer has faced. She tells him to register with the Tamers Guild and present this information. The Tamers Guild is an organization that collects this type of information. Ryoma welcomes them inside his home, and after settling, Reinhardt goes to the exact reason they all came. He gives Ryoma a table clock as a token of his gratitude for the other day. Ryoma accepts the gift and thanks them. Reinhardt tells him that there's another reason they came to the forest. Eliara stands up and tells him that they are a family of tamers, so she came to tame her first familiar and would like to catch a slime. She tells him that they couldn't find any slime on their way, so he gives her a location where slimes usually go for water. She tells him that she'd like to go there, and while she's still confused about what type of slime she should capture, she asks him to teach her about the types of slime. Eliara already read about all the slimes in Ryoma's possession except the scavenger slime and the cleaner slime. He tells her about the both slimes. He demonstrates the cleaner slime to them, and they're all amazed at its result. He tells them that the cleaner slime can only eat grime and wouldn't harm humans. He tells them that the cleaner slime won't eat animal meat unless ordered. Eliara decides to make cleaner slime her first familiar, so she'd like to catch a slime that will evolve into a cleaner slime, so she asks him to teach her how to go about it. He tells them, the explanation is hard for a lady, so he explains it to the men instead. Hughes tells the ladies that the trick is to use water from the bath with one's filth and sweat in it and use it as bait. Ryoma says that slimes that can evolve into cleaner slimes are attracted to water that contains sweat. Eliara still insists on getting a cleaner slime. She decides that she will get the bait herself and without the help of others. After getting the bait, she heads out with her father and his friends, and by evening, she returns with her first familiar, which happened to be a cleaner slime. Ryoma remembered his first familiar, which was very sluggish but precious to him, and he named it Tabuchi. Elise asks him what he plans on doing from now on. He tells her he can't decide as he can stay in his current place or move to another place. Reinbach asks him to join them on their trip, as they'll be traveling to a town named Gimmel, and will be staying there for a while. Ryoma thinks about the possibility of leaving the forest and going for a trip, as it has been a while since he went on a trip, even in his normal life. Eliara tells him that this is also her first time taking a trip, and she has been nervous since leaving the town, but she has seen many new scenes and made new friends like him and her newly found slime. She encourages him that there's much more fun and joy in the outside world, and this helps Ryoma to conclude that the outside world is a place he has to explore. He asks that he join them on the trip, and they accept him. They help him prepare for the trip and tell him to leave his belongings with Sabas and his item box, but he tells them that he can cast an item box also. They're all surprised to hear that he can cast an item box as it belongs to a higher element even though it's basic magic. Elise offers to teach him anything she knows about magic, and having been blessed with knowledge by the divine beings, he just wants them to teach him common sense. Ryoma stuffed the entirety of his house into his item box, and the next morning, he locks his house and heads out. Sabas brings out both the horse and the cart from his item box, and he wonders if it's an intermediate space magic. On their way, Eliara asks Ryoma if it's true he has all the elements, which include fire, water, earth, and space. He tells her that he has all of them and can also use taming and barrier magics. Reinhardt tells him to be careful, as those who have all elements can end up being a master of none. Ryoma tells them that he also tried his hand at healing magic and alchemy as well. Alchemy is quite uncommon, as alchemists can be secretive, and they also have a sinister image associated with them. Eliara asks him what kind of alchemy he worked on. He replies that he only removed mineral poisons from rock salt to make it edible. Ryoma feels that he needs to learn the common sense rules of the world, because he's being showered with praise for everything he does. Over the next few days, they traveled by day and rested in tents at night, which made the trip quite a comfortable one. At a time, it began to rain, which is quite uncommon at that period of the year, and suddenly, they encountered a problem on their way. The road ahead appeared to be blocked, and the detour route would cost them an additional 3 days. Reinhardt concludes that he has to clear the path with earth magic, and when Ryoma figures out that it's a landslide, he picks out a raincoat and heads out. Seeing the raincoat, which is coated with a sticky solution from a sticky slime so it can repel water, Reinbach suggests they make it commercial and make Ryoma benefit from it. He decides to introduce Ryoma to Serge at the Morgan Trading Company when they get to town. When Ryoma gets to where the others are, he casts a spell on the entire area from rain. He advises Reinhardt on how to go about the earth spell he wants to cast. He demonstrated it to them, and with time, Ryoma cleared the way completely. The journey went on without troubles for the next 3 days, and finally, they arrived at Gimel, Ryoma's first town since arriving in the world. Ryoma arrives at Gimel, the mining town, having been invited to leave the forest with the Jamil Ducal family. This is the first town Ryoma has visited since arriving at Salfall. The productivity of mines in Gimul has been falling for a few years, and one of the goals of Reinhardt's trip there is to assess which mines to keep working on and which ones to close down. Ryoma went to the church with Reinhardt and the others to get issued an item called a status board. The status board displays a person's stats and a form of identification. At the church, they direct Ryoma to the baptism room and hand him the status board there. He is told to place it on the pedestal and touch the crystal to complete the baptism. He does that, and he meets with the divine beings. Gain tells him that they just pulled his mind over to their side momentarily. Gain tells him that even though he hasn't trained in the oracle skill, he lived a monastic life for 3 years and prayed to them every day, which is why they were able to give him the oracle skill so that they could meet him. They compliment his house in the forest, and Lulucia compliments his toilet, saying that there's no toilet in the world as clean as that. He tells them that it's thanks to the cleaner slime. Gain tells him that the cleaner and scavenger slimes are new species invented by him. Slimes were created by Gain, and all he did was give them the ability to adapt to the environment and reproduce. This made their evolutionary possibilities infinite. Lulucia tells him that the Ducal family came as a result of one of the previous people from Earth getting married to an ancestor of the Jamil family. She was a nice girl who dreamed of becoming an animal trainer, so when she was transferred, she wished to gain a skill that tames animals, and this made her create the Taming School of Magic. She achieved great things and was then given the title of a noble. Jamil's ancestor fell in love with her, and they got married, making the diving beings to bless the Jamil family individually as a family of tamers. Eliara inherited the blood of her ancestors strongly, from her mother's side in particular, and this makes her have tamer talents. Ryoma asks if there's another Earth transferee on that side of the family too. Gain tells him that they always bring at least one person over whenever they take magic from the Earth, usually at 200 years of local time separation between transfers, because having multiple transferees in one era would be close to impossible. The transferee on Eliara's mother's side was a typical otaku, who wished for strong magical powers and used them to become unstoppable in combat. He was given powers by the divine beings, but they kept on being worried until the day he died. Ryoma is calmer compared to the transferee. He makes his own decision calmly and follows the right rules. It's time for Ryoma to return, and Gain tells him that the other divine beings have noticed him, like the divine being of war and the divine being of magic. These two generally dislike transferees. The divine beings of crafts and artisans gave Ryoma his blessings too. As Ryoma leaves, they tell him that he should be able to meet them again if he visits the church again. After returning to the church, he checks his status tablet, and on it, he receives the title, Overcoming an Unhappy Life and Beloved Child of the Divine Beings. After coming out from the baptism room, Reinbach gives Ryoma a piece of advice. He tells him that his abilities are extremely high compared to other children of his age, and many unscrupulous individuals are expected to approach him to use him for their ends. For him to hide his strength, He advises Ryoma to register early at a guild and climb the ranks to raise his standing. Eliara asks him how much his total magic capacity is, and he replies that he thinks it was 198,000. She hears this and is surprised that he can still use his magic properly. Ryoma doesn't understand what she is saying, so Sabus explains it to him, telling him that the side effect of having a high magic capacity is that the users have a hard time controlling their powers and learning new magic. Eliara tells him that it's quite impressive how he's able to use magic so easily, as she is of the same age as he is and can't use magic very well. She tells him that her magic capacity is around $200,000, which is more than Ryoma's. She asks him how he became so great at magic, and he tells her that she should be able to get it just by playing freely with magic. He promises to teach her any time. After leaving the church, they headed for the Tamers Guild. The Tamers Guild is the guild for tamers and summoners who control monsters. Its main task is to provide job offers and information to its members. Eliara and Ryoma registered as tamers. The recent trend in the Tamers Guild is to determine how good a tamer is by the strength of the monsters they control. And since Ryoma is a slime specialist, he finds it hard to raise his rank. They head to the Adventurers Guild next, and this guild values survival skills and combat abilities, which is a great fit for Ryoma. They test his combat abilities before he's registered with the guild, and he decides to go all out in the test. He is told to shoot 5 targets with 5 arrows, and he hits the bullseye in all 5 of them. Reinhardt sees this and says that they all knew his skills were great, but it looks like they were still underestimating his true abilities. The next task is to hit the moving target. Ryoma hits all 50 targets with 50 arrows, and even a sneak attack from the instructor was countered, and this forced the instructor to call the test off. He tells him that the knife test was cautionary, and some have dodged the knife, but he was the only person to strike back. The instructor introduces himself as Worgen, the master of the Gmail branch of the Adventurers Guild. Worgen announces to the Duke and his family that Ryoma passed the test. Ryoma receives his guild card and is given a G rank. Worgen tells him that he could let him start at rank E given his skills, but he's worried that the others would push back if he starts him off too high. Jobs can only be taken on by people of the same ranks, but going with a party can allow one or attend jobs that are of higher ranks. Jobs for G ranks include house cleaning, cleaning the communal toilet, and so on. The next day, Ryoma takes his slimes out for his first job, which is a cleaning job at a cat beastkin's residence. The cat beastkin introduces herself as Mia, and Ryoma introduces himself to her. Ryoma's first job is to clean up a house filled with trash. The land beneath the trash dump next to the house was unstable, and one day, the whole heap of trash crashed into the basement, and it came pouring faster than anyone could clean it. Ryoma started with the trash in the trash dump, and using the scavenger slime, he cleared the trash out. Next, he used mist wash to clean the basement, and then made bricks using create blocks to fill the hole in the trash dump's wall. After a few hours, Ryoma was done with his work. Mia is happy to see everywhere clean, and she begins to shed tears of joy. She raised his reward pay and signed for the job completion. Ryoma reports back to the Adventurers Guild, where he received his pay. Worgen tells Ryoma that Mia is also an adventurer, and asks him how he was able to clear the trash. Ryoma tells him it was thanks to the slimes, and also because he knows some magic for this type of work. Worgen tells him to clean the communal toilet as his next task. He tells him that the job was issued by the town government, and the whole thing started when they refused to put up the money for cleaning because of how the town's income has been falling for some years. The town government tried cutting costs, and they started with management fees for the town. Ryoma tells him that he understands the situation and he'll prepare for the job and get it done the next day. Worgen tells him that he'll make sure he gets paid well for the job. Ryoma suggests they tell Reinhardt about the current situation of the town to see if something can be done about it. And later in the evening, Ryoma tells the Duke's family about the job, and immediately Reinhardt tells Sebas that the government office's report said the costs in the town were unchanged, meaning that there may be some embezzlement going on, so he asks him to look into it. Reinhardt thanks Ryoma for the information, as they may be able to uncover some crime because of it. Reinbach tells them that such a crime is unforgivable, as it puts all of his hard work to waste. The next day, Ryoma and his slimes went off to the pits in the communal toilets, and on getting there, they were welcomed by a very strong smell. The pits were 7 meters wide and 2 kilometers long, and there were 30 of them. Ryoma's slimes, under his command, clean up the entire place at once. After facing one, the scavenger slimes multiplied in number after having a lot to eat the previous day. Ryoma uses a monster appraisal to check out the monster's skills, and he notices a huge speak in poison resistance and a newly learned resistance to miasma. Ryoma rushed over to the Adventurers Guild, and he met Reinhardt and the others there. They were there to get more information from Worgen, and Ryoma tells them about the miasma. He tells them that the miasma hasn't leaked out of the area, fortunately, and he made sure not to bring the miasma and other related substances with him. Eliara and Elise ask him if he's fine, and he tells them he is. Ryoma is happy to see that someone is worried about him. Miasma is a harmful magic power that can affect a person physically and mentally. Ryoma asks that he take care of it before anyone is harmed, and Worgen asks him if he's still going to keep cleaning, knowing that there's miasma there. Ryoma tells him that they need to cut the miasma from the source, and he just needs his help to make sure nobody enters the area until it's clean. Reinbach suggests they find people to carry out the task, but Ryoma insists on doing it, telling them that the more people get involved, the higher the risk of miasma damage. He tells them that the safest approach is to let him and his slimes take care of it. He shows them his status board, showing them that he has various resistance and other skills that make it harder for him to die. These skills will help him recover even more quickly when exposed to miasma. Reinbach and the others are forced to agree to him taking the job. The next day, Ryoma arrives at the communal toilet to continue his cleaning, but this time, he has other members of the Adventurers Guild guarding the place to prevent others from coming closer. In attendance is Jeff Grange, who is a longtime friend of Worgen, Asagi, who is a dragon ute, Lapin, who is a monster researcher, Mizelia, who is a tiger beastkin, Mia Cat, who is the cat beastkin, and Celia, who's a rabbit beastkin. The number of scavenger slimes reached 1,000 after splitting and joining them together, turned them into a king scavenger slime. The king scavenger slime has a new skill called gluttony that allows work to progress many times faster than before. Elise and Eliara bring food and recovery potions for Ryoma. At nighttime, Ryoma appears to be halfway done, and he goes on to continue his work. The scavenger slimes increase to 3,033 in numbers, and Ryoma split them into groups of 1,011 to join up as king scavenger slimes to improve work efficiency. Early in the morning of the third day, Ryoma finally completes the cleaning, and they compliment him. Ryoma reports the situation to Worgen, and Worgen promises him a big payday for the work. It has been a long time since Ryoma worked past midnight. In his former life, it was a normal thing, and back then, his mother always stayed up to greet him when he got home. When his mother died, he didn't shed any tears, but it felt like a big hole appeared in his heart, and soon he began to feel lonely. Immediately, Ryoma entered the house. He was greeted by the entire family of the Duke, and seeing this, tears rolled down from his eyes. The warmth he lost a long time ago, that he didn't think he'd ever feel again, suddenly surrounds him in this new world, and it made him glad to be able to come to the world. Elia assisted in cooking breakfast along with her mom and the two maids. Elia asks Ryoma to teach her how to play with magic, and he agrees, just like he had promised her. Sebas asks Ryoma if he would like to learn something. Ryoma asks Sebas to teach him magic attacks, and for that, he refers him to Camille, telling him that Camille is the best teacher for that. Elia is good at ice and fire magic, which are the hardest to play with. Ryoma tells her that all she can do with ice magic is to make ice sculptures, and with fire magic, all she can do is create sparkler fireworks. He asks her if she can use water magic as well, but she tells him that it's not her strongest. Ryoma demonstrates how to make bubbles using water magic, and Elia finds it amazing, so she decides to give water magic a try. He tells her that the K is to use bubbly water magic to add stickiness to the water. She makes her own, but they broke earlier compared to the one Ryoma made earlier. He tells her to imagine the sticky solution from the sticky slimes, and just by doing that, she was able to make her bubbles last longer in the air without breaking. He tells her that she can practice by making a bigger version that they can pass around while playing. He tells her that the key is to put some extra magic power to make them stickier and harder to break. As they are enjoying it, Ryoma decides to modify the bubble by putting water inside it first, and then adding a wave. Using this process, he was able to change the shape of the water to create a big fish swimming in the air. Elia is excited to see this, and she thanks him so much because she can now play with magic. Elia continues to train on her own, while Ryoma meets with Camel. Camel demonstrates the most usable fire attack magic, which is using fire to create an arrow and then launching it towards the opponent. Ryoma gives it a try, and on his first try, the impact was far stronger than that of Camille. Ryoma learned Water Shot, Wind Hammer, Rock Bullet, Stun Arrow, Ice Arrow, and some defensive magic like Firewall, Water Wall, Windshield, and Ice Shield. That was all Camille had to teach Ryoma for the day, and Ryoma still wanted to learn more. So Sebas decided to teach him some space magic. Apart from the item box, Ryoma also learned Teleport, and he demonstrated it to Sebas. Sebas tells him to be ready to learn intermediate space, magic, like Dimension Home and Warp. He explains Warp by telling him to get a solid mental image of his destination, and just with that, he should be able to travel as far as he wants, as long as he has the magic energy. Ryoma gets it on his first try, and Sabas congratulates him. The next thing they practiced was Dimension Home. Dimension Home is magic that's a straight improvement of Item Box. It creates a huge space that can hold much more stuff, and unlike an item box, it has air inside, which means living things can be kept in it. Mastering this skill would help Ryoma carry his slimes around with him. After multiple tries from morning till evening, Ryoma is finally able to cast a Dimension Home, and Sabas congratulates him for it. He thanked Sabas, and they returned home using Warp. The next day, they went to the abandoned North Gimmel mine to train Elia in monster combat skills. On their way, Reinhardt tells Ryoma that the duty of every noble is to protect their lands and its citizens, and this means that when bandits and monsters appear, they must join the fight against them. The duties of those born in the ducal family include combat training, various magic, etiquette, civics, and economics. This is why Elia would head to the royal capital to attend school after the trip. When they arrive at the North Gimmel mine, Ryoma uses Dimension Home to bring out all of his slimes, and they all head into the mine except Reinbach, Reinhardt, Sabas, and Elise. Reinhardt's group went to a different part of the mines to investigate how infested the mine shafts are with monsters. And depending on the type of monsters, they'll determine whether or not to issue a quest at the Adventurers Guild. Reinhardt's team members are so strong that they do not need the guards, and the type of monsters to hang out in the mines are no match for them. Zeph tells them that traps aren't expected to appear at the mines, as it's a place people once worked, but if it were to be a labyrinth, they may encounter traps, and it is his job as a scout to find things like that. He tells them to try not to get ahead of them. At one point, they find a cave mantis, and the major problem with them is that they breed quickly, even though they are not quite dangerous. This means that you should expect to see at least 30 of them if you see one. Elia goes against the cave mantis, and Jill gives her a tip, telling her that their arm attacks can be fast, so she should watch out. Fire magic is not allowed in the cave, as there's nowhere for the smoke to go. Elia takes down the cave mantis using Ice Arrow with 2 trials. Camille commends her speed of activation and tells her to work on her accuracy. Ryoma goes up against 4 cave mantis at once, and he uses physical hardening to enhance his physical strength while he attacks them at close range with 2 knives. Zeph tells them that insect-type monsters are resilient, so they shouldn't let their guards down until the heads of the monsters have been crushed or taken off. They continued their search with Ryoma and Elia taking down many monsters, and just as they were about to leave, Elia found a metal slime and she went on to catch it. She hands it to Ryoma and tells him that it's a thank you gift for teaching her how to play with magic. After getting out and meeting up with the other teams, Reinhardt says that the mine is now a nest for cave mantises, and the mine shaft had cave bats. Sebas suggests it would be best to issue a quest through the Adventurers Guild. Thinking about the metal slime, Ryoma notices that the red soil around has the color of oxidized iron. He uses alchemy to separate the iron from the soil, and then separates the oxygen, which is making the rust. He combines the residue and consolidates it to make an iron bar. Everyone looks surprised seeing this, and Hughes tells them that it's his first time seeing real non-fraudulent alchemy. Reinbach took Ryoma to a shop named Morgan Trading Company to meet with Serge Morgan. Serge inspects the gold bar and the waterproof clothes, and he's very much pleased to see these things. He assures Reinbach that he'll take the responsibility of selling the fine goods. Ryoma tells Serge that he'd like to keep it a secret that he's the one producing them. Reinhardt tells Serge that if word gets out that he's the one producing them, some might begin to suspect fraud, and some might want to use nefarious means to take him in. Reinhardt asks that all the profits go to Ryoma. After the ducal family's thorough investigation, all those embezzling the budget for the pit toilets were arrested, and the next job for the Adventurers Guild is a monster hunt in the abandoned mine shafts. The metal slime's hard nature confirms that it has resistance against physical attacks, so Ryoma carries out some tests on it to see if it's affected by poison. He puts a bit of poison slime solution close to it to see how it reacts, but there's no reaction. He tries the same with the sticky slime solution and acid slime solution, but it only reacts to the acid slime solution. The metal slime is just like clay. It can form any shape and harden at that shape. The Adventurers Guild members arrive to pick up Ryoma for their mission, and Ryoma heads out. Worgen briefs the team about the monster found in the abandoned mine shafts. He tells them that they are the cave mantis, the cave bat, and the small rat. He tells them to expect a large horde and keep their guards while they hunt. Ryoma has been promoted to rank F just from carrying out the pit job. Jeff tells him that he'll go straight to rank E if he does well in the current monster hunt. Asagi and Lapin's team split up to take another route, and Jeff tells them to be careful. Ryoma has 728 sticky slimes, 323 poison slimes, 201 acid slimes, 33 scavenger slimes, 11 cleaner slimes, 2 healing slimes, 1 metal slime, and 1 ordinary slime, making it a total of 4,210 slimes. Welana asks Ryoma what weapons he can use. Ryoma tells her that he mostly fights with a bow, but he can also use daggers or fight unarmed. He mentions that he can use attack magic, and Welana tells him to concentrate on flying monsters using his attack magic. Ryoma is the only one on their team that can use attack magic. The Beastkins can only use a little as they have low magic energy. Cilia tells him to count on her when it comes to healing magic. The monster hunt begins, and easily, they take out the cave mantises and small rats. Welana suddenly smells a group of cave bats up ahead. Ryoma noticed them too. Having spent 3 years in the forest, he's sensitive to these signs also. They wonder if there's a way they can take them out all at once, and Ryoma decides to experiment. He uses a magic called Sound Bomb. First of all, he covers the team in a soundproof barrier, and then fires a sound bomb into the room containing the cave bats. They go in after to check the cave bats, and they find the entire horde lying on the ground dead. Ryoma unshrinks his sticky slime and uses them to clear out the entire horde of cave bats. The monster hunt went out smoothly, and around midday, they headed out of the mines to take a break. After getting outside, Morgan tells them that one of the parties encountered a pack of goblins deep in the mines, and some were deeply injured. He tells them that judging from the intel, there may be a large goblin village with over 500 goblins. They have to crush them fast or they'll grow in number, and that's why they're starting an operation to eliminate the goblins. The goblin village was discovered deep in the mines, and the first step for the attack on the goblins. The adventurers were posted in each mine shaft to block the goblins' escape. They start the attack by luring out the goblins into a deep trench filled with acid slimes. Their acids melt the goblins quickly, and those that got over the trench were shot down with attack magic and arrows laced with poison slime poisons. All of the adventurers work together to face off against the unending numbers of goblins. The acid slimes aren't digesting the goblins fast enough. Ryoma uses the healing slimes to heal up the injured, and he summons out all of his slimes and announces to the rest of the party members that he's using a sound bomb. Ryoma creates a sound barrier for the others, while he uses the slimes to form a shield, and afterward, he uses the sound bomb. He and the slimes go on to attack the remaining goblins, and the rest of the team members follow his lead. They ended up taking down over 2,000 goblins. And suddenly, they heard a scream from the leader of the goblins. The leader of the goblins comes out to attack them alongside some hobgoblins. Ryoma commands his slimes to attack, and they wipe out the entire goblins. The slimes clean up the entire place, and Ryoma tells the cleaner slimes to clean the bodies of his team members. Lipin notices that Ryoma's healing slimes have begun casting high heal, which is an unexpected evolution. This is probably because they've used heal many times, making the procedure go faster and extremely helpful. Worgen raises everyone's pay as the goblin's commander makes the job bigger than expected. On their way back, Lipin asks Ryoma if the healing slimes eat like the other slimes. Ryoma replies that they only drink water and they survive by photosynthesis, making their nutrients by absorbing light. He tells them that the healing slimes are very weak and would probably lose against normal slimes, which is why they are rare, as they have a very low chance of survival. The fact that Ryoma controls a large number of slimes should raise his evaluations by slimes aren't evaluated well at the Tamers Guild, because many hold the preconception that slimes are useless and worthless. Ryoma goes to take over the riding of the cart from Mr. Jeff so he can take a break. The remaining members are sleeping as it is already nighttime, but Jeff insists that he isn't taking a break, making Ryoma sit with him and have a little chit-chat. Ryoma is happy that he came to the world because everyone is nice to him. If he hadn't met with the ducal family, he'd have still been stuck in the forest, so it's thanks to the Jamil family that he's able to travel with comfortability. He wonders if it's right for him to keep depending on the ducal family. Getting home, Ryoma briefs everyone about what happened in the mines and the arrival of goblins that they had to take care of in the mines. He tells them that he has decided on what to do from then on. He thanks them for helping him so much, and tells them that he'd like to separate from them now and be able to support himself. Ryoma tells them that he'll feel like a terrible person if he continues to rely on them for everything. He tells them that it was thanks to them that he was able to become a proper adventurer, but he feels like he's getting spoiled, which is why he'd like to take a step back. Elise him. If he isn't leaving forever, and he tells her that he isn't going to leave them, he tells them that he just wants to refrain himself till he's comfortable with himself. Elise tells him that they'll welcome him back with open hands. Aaliyah asks her mom if she's just going to let him go like that, and she replies that Ryoma just wants a chance to grow, just like she's going to school in the royal capital. She tells Ryoma that she doesn't believe it's necessary as he's only 11 years old, and he deserves to be spoiled more. Reinhardt already anticipated this, and had discussed it earlier with his wife that Ryoma would tell them one day that he wanted to live by himself, Sebas tells them that immediately after arriving in the unfamiliar city, Ryoma registered himself in the guilds, found jobs, and worked diligently, just like it is completely natural. And that was why they expected that he would bring up the subject at some point. He mentioned that the subject came sooner than they expected. Reinbach tells Ryoma that they wouldn't stop him, but he mentions that he doesn't push himself too hard. Excess efforts can lead to waste sometimes, and not results. Reinbach sets a few conditions for Ryoma to leave them. The first is that he must first update them regularly with a letter. He must visit them occasionally to show that he is doing well. And finally, he shouldn't hesitate to ask them for help if anything comes up. Eliara is sad to see Ryoma go, but she respects his decision to leave. She gives him another condition and tells him that they must meet again 3 years from now and 6 years from now. She tells him that she will graduate from school in 6 years, and after the first 3 years, students take a long vacation and they'll meet then. She tells him that she'll concentrate on her studies and her training in magic, and he tells her that he'll try to grow on his own during that time as well. Elise gives him another rule, which is that he stays in the same inn as they are whenever they're in town. He asks them how long they're staying in town, and they say that it's until the time of the Grell Frog outbreak. Grell Frogs are monsters whose hide is used for armor, and their organs can also be used to make medicine. Every year there's a massive outbreak of them at a nearby lake, but the main targets are the Limore birds that arrive at the same time. Limore birds have pretty feathers and sing beautiful songs. They are highly sought after since they can fly very fast, but capturing them is very difficult, so not many tamers can tame them, making them quite rare. They invite Ryoma to accompany them when the time comes, as it is a beautiful sight to watch. Reinhardt asks Ryoma what he means by living on his own. Ryoma replies that he'd like to live as an adventurer in the town, establish a relationship with people, and train himself. He tells them he'd like to start a laundry business, using the cleaner slimes. The guards eavesdrop on the entire conversation, and they suddenly fall in. The maids tell Reinhardt that Ryoma's laundry business will be successful, as many adventurers throw away their gear because the grime and smell won't come off, and if Ryoma can clean them off, he'll make money from it. Reinbach tells him to discuss it with Serge, as he can be of help. Reinhardt asks him to do a job for them if he's going to stay in the town. He asks him to manage the abandoned mines periodically whenever he's free, just to make sure that no monsters settle there. The next day, Ryoma and Eliara went to Morgan Trading Company to discuss things with Serge. He demonstrates the cleaner slime to Serge, and Serge finds it amazing. He tells him that he can see massive success in it already. Serge suggests that Ryoma would register with the Merchants Guild. He tells him that the Merchants Guild won't go after businesses that barely make ends meet, and there's a possibility that Ryoma's laundry service would generate huge sums of money. Serge takes Ryoma to register immediately with the guild, as he is determined to assist him in any way he can. Ryoma arrives at the Merchants Guild to register with them. He meets with Glisella, the master of the guild, and he tells her about the laundry business that he plans on venturing into. She likes his idea, and immediately she hands him the registration form to get him registered immediately. She gives him a location where he can set up shop and tells him that she'll make it cheap even though the location has some issues. They arrive at the location, and it is an abandoned building that housed a bar, inn, and warehouse before it was burnt down. The place is situated in a residential area that is closer to the Adventurers Guild and not far from the industrial area, which makes the location a great spot. Ryoma decides to buy the place, and Serge offers to handle the paperwork. Serge charges him a commission for the paperwork and offers to loan him some of his employees as their professional managers, so the management duties can be left to them. He tells Ryoma that he isn't suited for management at his current state, as his emotions are visible through his facial expressions, but given his age, he hides it better than his peers. Ryoma borrows Serge's employees and also buys all the supplies he needs from Serge, and thus, things go on track smoothly. Ryoma demolishes the former building and rebuilds his shop from scratch, making it a story building with a basement and a dormitory for the employees to live in. The guards help him with the floor finishes, and members from the Adventurers Guild help him with the painting. Ryoma has been promoted to rank E in the Adventurers Guild. The laundry idea was given to Ryoma by Mia when he helped them clean up with the cleaner slimes after their previous mission. Lapin tells them that anyone who knows about Ryoma's slime cleaning ability would come right away. They tell him that they'll be there all the time for his service, and he thanks them. Ryoma named the shop Bamboo Forest Laundry Service, which is based on his last name, Takebayashi. Take means bamboo and Bayashi means forest. Eliara suggests they plant some lawns and flowers around the building to give it a better look. Ryoma invites everyone to come and take a look before the official opening of the shop, sort of like a light party and a token of his gratitude for their help. Before then, he stops by the church where he meets with the divine being. This time, he meets with only Kufo, as Gain and Lulutia aren't around. Kufo tells him that they are in his old world for sightseeing. She tells him that Lulutia is on a sweets tour, and Gain fell in love with an idol group in Japan. Time went up quickly, probably because Gain and Lulutia weren't available. Kufo tells him that his younger body is affecting his mind, and he's experiencing infantile regression. She tells him to train himself, but not to overdo it. Ryoma holds an opening party for Bamboo Forest Laundry Service, and invites the ducal family alongside people who helped him out because he wanted to show them his thanks. Serge and the new assistants make their way to the Bamboo Forest Laundry Service. Ryoma and Elia, alongside the maids, prepare the food that would be served to the guests. When they were done, Ryoma thanked the maids, Lillian and Arani, for their help alongside Elia. Serge is the first to arrive at the shop, and the assistants are surprised to see such a shop built by an 11-year-old. He tells them that age is irrelevant and a person shouldn't be judged by their appearance. Ryoma and Elia meet with Serge, and he congratulates them. He introduces the assistants to Ryoma, the first one being Carla Norad and the second being Callum Norad. Ryoma and Elia also introduce themselves. Serge tells Ryoma that both of them are young, but they have served as sub-manager and deputy sub-manager at the Luyan branch of his company. He tells them that he's confident that they'll be able to assist Ryoma. Ryoma shows them around the shop and briefs them on the work process of the shop. He tells them about the cleaner slimes also, and tells them that they should just put the sack of clothes in a particular room through the window after accepting payments. He shows them the process from the cleaner slimes cleaning to the metal slime pressing the clothes, and then finally, the sorting after which the clothes would be returned to the customers. He shows them an area that is off limits for the customer, and the area contains the dressing room, guest meeting room, manager's office, break area for employees, restroom, and the office kitchen. He shows them the dormitories and tells them to choose any room they like. The others arrive, and he tells them to help him with the party. The party goes on, and Ryoma gives a speech. He first thanks them all for attending and for their help so far. They all congratulate him, and the food begins to go round. Morgan asks Glycilla what she thinks about Ryoma's business, and tells him she believes it'll do well. He asks her if she'd like to give Ryoma a few tips, and she replies that she'll just watch for now, and let him do what he thinks is best, telling him that she wouldn't be against offering him help if he asked for it. She tells Worgen to watch over Ryoma properly too. Carla tells her brother, Callum, that it seems Ryoma has earned the trust of everyone. They look around, only to see the slimes doing the whole work, from washing the dishes to taking care of the trash. After eating till they were full, Ilya served them dessert again, and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves, making the opening party a success. After the party, the slimes clean the entire house, and Ryoma thanks Callum and Carla for their help. Both of them ask Ryoma to allow them to work with him at the laundry service, and Ryoma is happy. They tell him that they had their worries at first, about a business run by an 11-year-old using slimes for laundry, but the worries disappeared after seeing his personality and the trust and support that so many people have in him. They tell him that they believe they can learn more from him, and hope that they live up to the expectations of Morgan Trading Company who introduced them. Ryoma tells them that he's glad to have someone with great expertise in business on board, and he looks forward to working with them. He tells them not to try too hard and just be normal. They always had the feeling that Ryoma is related to a noble family, but he tells him that he isn't. He tells them that he isn't a noble himself, but the Jamil Dukal family treats him well. He tells them to be normal around him, as he's just an adventurer. The next day, Bamboo Forest Laundry Service opens, and Ryoma wonders if they'll get any customers. Callum and Carla arrive at work, and they begin to prepare to open. Finally, the shop opens, and Ryoma tells Carla and Callum that he isn't sure they'll get any customers immediately, but they should be ready while he goes to the Adventurers Guild to let them know they've opened. Aaliyah goes with Hughes for her magic training, while Ryoma heads to the Adventurers Guild. At the Adventurers Guild, he meets a notice board announcing the opening of his laundry. The notice was put up by Mia and Walana earlier that day, and the two of them also go round to continue with the advertising. Ryoma picks up a herb gathering job and hands it to the attendant, Maylene. The job is one he can handle while he patrols the mines. Ryoma uses the slimes to gather the herbs while he goes into the mine for the patrol, and after patrolling the mines, he delivers the herbs to the guilds to collect his pay, and then returns to his shop only to see the entire place filled up with customers. He warps into the shop to help Callum and Carla handle the many customers. The customers tell him that they were told about the place by some adventurers, and they thought they should give it a try. Ryoma tells Carla and Callum to collect the orders while he does all the hauling. They kept on working till their closing time. Ryoma thanked them for their help, as they were filled with customers throughout the day without a break in between. He feels a little bad because Callum and Carla also didn't have any rest, so he promises them that he'll hire more employees immediately, maybe 4 or 6, so they can all take shifts. Callum tells him to talk to the Merchants Guild as he believes they can introduce him to potential workers, and Ryoma heads there right away. He tells them to get some rest as soon as they are done calculating the sales for the day. He meets with Glycilla at the Merchants Guild and tells her about how the business went for the day. She tells him that she expected him to do well, but she didn't expect it to be quite explosive. She asks him if he's there for more employees, and he tells her that he is. She tells him that she'll gather some candidates for him to decide who to hire. Later at night, he tells the ducal family about how the business went for the day. Reinhardt tells him to visit the town guard's quarters, as it is a place packed with men and filled with unwashed laundry. He tells Ryoma that it might be a good source of income for him. Ryoma opened the slime-assisted laundry service, Bamboo Forest, and thanks to everyone, the first day was a huge success, and so was the second one. Customers are well satisfied, as the one stain they gave up on has all been cleared off. Ryoma heads out to the Merchants Guild to meet with Glycilla. Glycilla already gathered candidates that can do math, and they are all capable of starting immediately. Ryoma thanked the old lady for organizing it on such short notice. She tells him that it's just the right person handling the right task. The candidates are surprised to see Ryoma, and they wonder if he's Glycilla's grandson, but they don't recall her having a grandson like that. Ryoma introduces himself to them as the owner of the Bamboo Forest laundry service. They are all surprised to hear that he's the owner, and he thanks them for taking time out of their busy schedules. He tells them that they are looking for staff who can speak to customers and carry items. He tells them that he's a tamer, and the shop contains his slimes. He tells them that the slimes work too, so he would like them to be treated as colleagues. He tells them that the job might not be for anyone who is afraid of slimes or dislikes them, and the same goes for those who don't like the idea of working under him. Most of the candidates leave the room except two, and Ryoma asks the two of them if he can assume that they are okay with working under him. They confirm that they are. Ryoma notices the cane and the hair ornament, and immediately he asks for their names and also tells them to let him know of any conditions for employment that they might have. The man introduces himself as Fei and his daughter, Li Ling. He tells Ryoma that it would be great if he could hire both of them. Fei asks if his broken leg would be a problem for work, and Ryoma tells him that it wouldn't be a problem at all. He asks them if they have any requests regarding the pay, and Fei tells him that they do not have any issue as long as they can live. He asks Li Ling if she has any wishes, and she asks if it's possible that they live at the workplace or any cheap inn, as they do not have much money. Ryoma tells her that it shouldn't be a problem, as they have dormitories for their employees. Ryoma asks them one question. He tells them that they seem to be very strong, so he asks if the hair ornaments and cane are weapons. Fei asks Ryoma what kind of expert he is. He tells him that they are former assassins. Glycilla can read people better than anyone, and she already knew about this, as she always checks anyone she introduces to a job with her own eyes, just like she did for Ryoma. Fei and Li Ling's master lost in a war, so they lost their homeland, job, and their reason to remain assassins. This is what brought them to this place, as they worked in mines to make money, but Li Ling got caught in a collapse, which made his leg break. They wonder if Ryoma is similar to them, as he and Glycilla are the only ones who saw through them. They have a feeling that he's similar to them but not the same as them, making it quite strange. Ryoma asks them when they can start, and they're surprised that he's still hiring them, even though they were former assassins. He tells them that he doesn't have a problem with it as far as the guild master approves of it. He asks them if they can be bodyguards too, in case something happens, and they tell him that it'll be no problem at all. Ryoma officially hires them, and Glycilla tells them to work hard as the business has a great future. Ryoma takes them to his shop, and they find it to be a very pretty and popular place. Ryoma introduces them to Carla and Callum, and they get work immediately. He tells Fei to help with the reception while Li Ling carries the bag of cleaned laundry. Li Ling introduces herself to the slimes, and they respond to her. She started working, and with the help of both of them, they were able to get through the evening rush of customers. At the closing of the day, Ryoma addresses his employees, and he tells them to make sure the standard is being kept high. He tells Carla and Callum to calculate the sales for the day, while he calls Li Ling and Fei aside. He uses the Dimension Home to summon healing slimes to heal Fei's broken leg. Fei thanks him seriously for healing up his legs, and Ryoma tells him not to worry, as making sure employees work comfortably is part of his duty as an employer. Fei tells him that he had given up on healing the leg, so they used all of their money for bribes to the border guard when they fled their country, which is why they have no money with them. Ryoma takes them to the dormitory and describes their rooms to them. Carla hands Ryoma the sales for the day, and they end up making more than the first day. Carla suggests that he can start making branches in other towns as they're in a mining city, and demands would keep increasing as they're in a mining town. He tells them that making a branch is too early, but they tell him it isn't, and all he needs is to find a person he can trust, and he tells them that he'll put it at the back of his mind. He tells them that Li Ling and Fei have military experience, so they will serve as their bodyguards as well. He tells Carla and Callum to add that factor to their pay calculation as well. Ryoma meets with Elia, and he tells her that he was able to hire more help. On the third day, Ryoma had more customers as well, and his employees kept on working hard to ensure the smooth running of the work. Ryoma bakes pizza for them while they're working, and they take breaks to have their meal in shifts. They were able to get through the third day by having the full staff work full time. At the end of the day, they made sales of 1.5 times that of the previous day, while keeping all of the customers happy. Liling tells him that the business will grow, and he asks if he should hire more people, and Callum agrees with him. Ryoma tells them that he'd like to hire a cook also, so they can all have something to eat while they're working. The workers are happy with the work conditions, as a lot of effort is put into their well-being, and they can't think of any place that would treat them better. Ryoma heads to the Merchants Guild to hire more workers. He tells Glycella that he needs 3 employees and 1 cook for the employees' meals. She tells him that she'll help him get the candidates this time, ensuring they're those who don't mind working with slimes. The next day, Ryoma meets with Fina, Maria, and Jane. He introduces himself to them, and Glycella tells him that the 3 of them came from the same village to Gimel to find work. Selma also introduces herself as the cook, and Glycella tells him that they've all agreed to work at his place and live at his dormitory, and all they need now is his approval. Ryoma approves it, and Glycella suggests that he opens a new branch in a different town if business is going well. 1 week after opening, everything continues to go well, and Ryoma can take some time out to wash the walls and take care of the flowers. The ducal family arrive at the shop, and they find everything to be beyond their expectations, and are now confident that Ryoma can live in the town alone. Sebas meets with Ryoma and apologizes for calling him suddenly. He asks him how the bamboo forest is going, and Ryoma tells him that the 2 he introduced him to are working very well, and he also hired a few other employees, so the shop can run without him. Sebas tells him about another business opportunity. He asks him for more waterproof fabrics to be delivered alongside the steady supply of ingots and sticky slime strings. He tells him about the upcoming Grell frog outbreak season, and about how their hides make armor and their organs make good medicine and sell well. He tells him that it's why many adventurers head out to the lake during the outbreak season. He tells him that waterproof garments and warders would be very popular for it, and Ryoma tells him that he'll start making it immediately. Ryoma makes an ordinary slime-eat iron powder to check whether it'll evolve into a metal slime. Eliara asks him if he's making waterproof fabrics at the mines, and he tells her he is. He tells her that it's a good place to avoid interference, and she asks if she can join him there. On getting there, she brings out her violin and tells him that she can practice to her heart's content there. He tells her he didn't know she had such talent and asks her why. She reminds him about the Limore birds coming to the lake, and she tells him that playing music is essential to taming them. She tells him that it makes it easier for the birds to accept the taming contract if they like the music, which is why she needs to practice. While she's practicing, Ryoma makes his waterproof garments, and while he's waiting for the fabrics to dry, he makes the doll he promised her earlier. He makes dolls resembling every member of the ducal family, as well as for the maids and the guards. Reinhardt asks Elia to take it with her when she goes to school to keep her from being lonely. Elia tells Ryoma to make a doll of himself so she'll take him with her. The next day, Ryoma checked in with the shop, and since everything was going fine, he went to the mines to continue making the waterproof garments. While waiting for the garments to dry, he decides to do some combat training with the slimes for a while. He goes one-on-one with the King Scavenger slime, and after a while, they end training. He notices the ordinary slime which he had been feeding with iron turns into a metal slime, but this time a heavier version. He runs a monster appraisal and finds out it's an iron slime. He figures out that a metal slime is formed from eating lots of different metals, while an iron slime is formed from just eating pure iron. At the closing of the day, at the store, the cleaner slimes begin to multiply, and this is expected to make the work more efficient. He meets with the others, and Carla tells him that they recorded 3 times more than the previous day's sale. He asks how they were able to go about it, and she tells him that they had many huge contracts in the morning as words got around, and representatives from the blacksmiths, carpenters, and iron foundry came in, and they were all happy with their cleaning. Ryoma thanks them for working hard, and they tell him that it's the least they could do as hired employees. He tells them not to hesitate, to let him know if they have any issues, and they tell him there's no issue at all as it's a comfortable workplace. Ryoma suddenly remembers holidays as it's a basic necessity, so he apologizes to them about it. He tells them that they can close shop 1 day a week, or take holidays in shifts. The employees are happy about it, and Carla tells him that it's not common for a non-local laborer to have set vacation days. They mention to him that if they got employed by the wrong employer, they could get overworked with little pay, or at worst, put their charity at risk. He tells them that the goal of the shop is to run a clean business and treat its employees well. Selma announces that dinner is ready, and they ask him to stay for dinner. Ryoma meets with Maylene, and she asks if he plans on doing the guild work. He tells her he is, and that his employees can run the shop all by themselves now. He goes to see if he can get any good jobs, and she calls him back, telling him that she has something nice for him, but it isn't a job. She tells him that there's an adventuring party from out of town called Pier of Sikum. She tells him they caught a rare breed of slime and tried to sell it to the Tamers Guild, but they were refused. He tells her that he wants it, and she describes where they are to him. Ryoma arrives at the Pier of Sikum and meets with them. He introduces himself as an adventurer and a tamer. Sane doesn't seem to believe that a young guy like him can be a tamer. He tells them that he heard their story and that they couldn't sell their rare slime. Sane breaks down and begins to cry to Ryoma, telling him that they heard that even rare slimes can sell well if it's a rare breed. So they came to the town but got nothing. Two other guys take Saiyan away because of his drunkenness. The leader of the Pier of Sikum, Shin alongside Kai, starts their conversation over again. Ryoma tells them that he'd like to purchase the rare slime that they couldn't sell. He asks them how much they are charging, and they ask him to set a price since the Tamers Guild told them it's worthless, so they find it hard to come up with a price. He asks them if he can see the slime and offers to pay extra if it's a type of slime that he doesn't own yet. When he sees the slime, he offers to pay extra as it's a new breed of slime he hasn't seen before. He tells them about the Grell Frog outbreak and tells them it's a good opportunity for them to make money. He advertises his shop to them also and tells them that they can visit his shop as a customer, and Shin tells him that they definitely will. Ryoma warps to the mine and then he executes the taming contract. Afterwards, he carries out the monster appraisal and finds out that the slime is a bloody slime, which fits its appearance. The slime has a vampirism skill, which means it feeds on blood. Ryoma lays the slime near a dead rat, and it goes inside the body of the rat to drink out all the body organs, leaving the skin alone. Kufo tells Gain that Ryoma likes slimes, and Gain tells her that the slimes must be happy too to be treated so well. Gain tells her that it wasn't a mistake to bring Ryoma to the world. The Grell Frog outbreak is approaching, and Ilia tells him that her parents will teach her taming magic the next day. The ducal family arrives at the location where they plan to teach Elia taming magic. Elise asks them to describe the nature of taming magic. Elia answers the question saying the user enters a contract with a monster to gain its help. She goes on to say that it's a link formed between the user and the monster that allows them to communicate with each other. Elise tells them that they'll learn shared sensation magic based on the link. She tells them that through sharing sensations they can gain information through the familiar, let the familiar know they are in danger, and so on. Reinhardt tells them that it is a magic that is specific to taming magic and not shared with summoning magic. He tells them that summoning magic is forced on the monster using magical force, and it's only a one-way link. Reinbach tells them that they'll need lots of experience to fully utilize shared sensation. He tells them that they'll be training with the crew birds and not their slimes because it's hard to tell how effective the magic is. Reinhardt tells them that even if they shared their sensation with a slime, there wouldn't be any vision, hearing, smell, or taste to share. Elise tells them both to get into a contract with the crew birds. Afterwards, they try sharing sensations. Elise tells them that they don't have to recite a spell, but instead, they should just focus on their link with the familiar by creating a mental image of being able to see what their familiar is seeing. Ryoma gets it immediately, but the feeling is like he's nauseating. Reinbach is surprised Ryoma got it quickly as it's supposed to be a difficult magic to learn. Reinhardt tells him that the nausea he's feeling is what every taming magic user goes through. He tells Ryoma to close his eyes and concentrate on just the familiar's vision, and doing that makes the situation better. Ilia also gets the hang of it in no time. During break, everyone is served tea, and Elise tells them that there is no problem with being a quick study, but all that's left is for them to train. This is Ryoma's first time contracting a non-slime monster, and Elise tells him that he has the aptitude for bird-type monsters too. Reinhardt tells him that every taming magician has aptitudes, meaning that they are all good or bad at taming certain types or numbers of monsters, and finding out the right familiar is one of the key skills for becoming a food tamer. Reinbach does well with scaled monsters, and he can't maintain too many familiars at once, but each one is very strong. Reinhardt can tame almost all four-legged monsters but can't enter into a contract with a bird-type monster. Elise summons Lewarg, her little Fenrir familiar. The Fenrir is a divine beast, and little Fenrirs are wolf-like monsters that can use a little ice magic. She tells him that this particular Fenrir is the boss of its pack, and she has 20 more tamed little Fenrirs just like that one. She tells them she does well with wolf-type monsters, and she has 100 more various wolf-type familiars. Elise is one of the most skilled tamers, and Reinhardt used to suffer from an inferiority complex just by watching Elise and her skills. It dawned on Ryoma that he's surrounded by incredible people, And speaking of incredible people, Reinbach is several steps ahead of Elise and Reinhardt. He has less than 20 familiars, but half of them are dragon types. Reinbach tells them that he was just lucky in his case, as he didn't only have the aptitude, but the first monster he contracted was extremely powerful, and all the other dragons under its command joined in. Reinbach can't call on his familiars unless it's very important. His familiars live in the mountains, in the land they own, and those mountains are full of powerful, dangerous monsters, so his dragons prevent those monsters from leaving the mountain. Elise wolves live in a different mountain, and the mountain is home to some precious medicinal herbs, so her wolves guard them against poachers. The more powerful a tamer's familiars get, the more troublesome it is to look for a place for them to live. After a few days, Ryoma practiced taming magic with Eliara and made waterproof fabric in the mines. The Grell Frog outbreak starts soon, and the peak is in 3 or 4 days. Members of the Adventurers Guild meet with Ryoma to ask him how he got the outfit he wore earlier when he was cleaning the communal toilet. They tell him that they'd like to get some good clothes for the frog hunt that don't soil easily. He tells them that they can get it at the Morgan Trading Company. Later at night, the ducal family talks about the Grell Frog, and Eliara tells him that lots of Limore birds are flying in to hunt Grell frogs. She tells him that will tame them. Elise tells him that they've decided to go to the lake the day after the next day. Ryoma continues to learn how to play the guitar, in hopes that he gets to tame a Limore bird too. It dawns on Ryoma that his separation from Eliara and the others is nearing. The day to attempt to tame the Limore birds arrive, and they all head to the place. On their way going, they meet with the peer of Sekum, and Ryoma greets them. He tells the ducal family to go on without him, while he speaks with Shin and his members. Shin thanks him for the other day, and Seiyan apologizes for his drunken behavior that day. Kai tells him that they're going to sell the frogs at the Adventurers Guild, and then visit the bamboo forest. Ryoma catches up with the ducal family, and they enjoy the sight of the Limore birds. Reinhardt shows Eliara someone who is trying to tame a Limore bird too. The man plays the flute, and Ryoma asks Elise how much a musical skill affects the contract process. Elise tells him that she heard a story once that a person was confident with his music but failed, and when the person smashed his instrument in anger, the birds liked the noise. Reinbach tells him that they make an uncomfortable warning sound when they don't accept your performance, just like what the birds are doing to the man. The man tries to attack the Limore birds, but they attack him using a wind cutter, which is a form of wind magic. Limore birds are normally mild-mannered, but they are not weak monsters at all. The man runs towards them while being attacked by the Limore birds, but Ryoma uses Earth's Wall to protect them. They suddenly start to hear a loud sound that affects everyone's ears apart from Ryoma. They wonder if it's an advanced species, and Ryoma senses a strong magic power affecting a wide area. He wonders which bird is doing this, and after focusing well on them, he figures out the bird responsible for it and uses magic to silence it and chase it away. The bird is an advanced species, the nightmare Limore bird, a very rare species that is spotted once every 10 years. It can use dark magic in addition to wind magic, and its most prominent feature is the attack on the mind through song and dark magic, creating fear, confusion, and hallucinations, and can knock a person out. Ryoma remembers he has a skill called mental pain resistance, which might be why he wasn't affected. The only injured person was the man who caused the commotion, and since the unrest scared all the birds off, they wonder what they'll do next. Ryoma suggests they find the Limore bird's nest, and Zeph tells them that it could be tough as Limore birds fly farther than other monsters, which is why those who want to tame them stake out here. Eliara tells them that she'll wait there, expecting the birds to come back. Elise alongside the others waits for the arrival of the Limore birds, and while they're waiting, Elise tells Ryoma that they're going their separate ways soon, and Ryoma is short of words to say in such a scenario. He plans on telling her that it's not like they're never going to see each other again, but Elise beats him to it. Eliara tells Ryoma to write to her, and immediately, Hughes hits his back and whispers in his ear for him to go for a hug. The Limore birds arrive back, and this time, the nightmare Limore bird stays cautious of Ryoma. Ryoma tells Reinhardt that he'll step back a bit, as the previous interaction might have made the nightmare Limore bird cautious of him, so his staying might cause him to interfere. Eliara tells him that she doesn't care, and she'll never treat his presence near her as an excuse for her failure. She tells him to sit back and watch her play, as his presence gives her courage. She picks up her violin and starts to play, and everyone stays quiet, enjoying her sound. The birds start to make pleasant sounds as well, in tune with her music, and when she is done, they fly towards her, and she uses the taming contract with them, getting a total of 9 birds at once. Ryoma brings out his guitar too to try his luck. The guitar is not an instrument they're familiar with in this world, and Elise is excited to hear what his performance will sound like while Reinhardt and Eliara wish him good luck. Ryoma starts to play the guitar and plays a comforting and rare tune, and just like Eliara, many birds follow his tune and fly to him, including the nightmare Limore bird. He carries out the contract and they congratulate him just like they did for Eliara. Elise tells them that taming a Limore bird is impressive, but taming multiple at once is incredibly impressive. Eliara performs a monster appraisal on one of her birds that looks different, and she finds out that it's an advanced species too. She tells them that it's a phantom Limore bird and can cast light magic. The phantom is even more rare than the nightmare. Later at night, a huge banquet was held, and it was both a celebration of Eliara successfully taming the Limore birds and a farewell party to Ryoma. Eliara plays the flute, and it dawns on Ryoma that his traveling with them is almost over, as they are expected to leave the next morning. Eliara sits with Ryoma on his bed, and while she's feeling a little sad, she asks Ryoma if he'll be living near the mines the next day. Ryoma tells her he would since he's going to be patrolling there frequently. He tells her that he can also train his magic there, without bothering anyone, so he'll build some rooms there over time. He asks her if she's going to enter the school dormitories, and she tells him that children of nobles are supposed to go to the school in the capital from age 12, and there's no law or anything. She tells him that she doesn't have anyone close enough to call a friend, as most people are afraid of either her status or her magical power. She tells him that she made a mistake a while ago, and it was when she was 5 years old. An older boy visited her house and offered to teach her magic, but she couldn't control the magic well, so she ended up freezing the boy, and they unfroze him immediately. She tells him that he was fine, and his family forgave them, but it seems like the boy told others that she did it on purpose, and she attacks those who cross her. Rumors began to spread among the nobles, and it scared people off. She tells him that she can't deny making the mistake and asks him if he's afraid of her after hearing that. He smiles and tells her that he's fine, and that such things are bound to happen to anyone once or twice. He assures her that he'll never be afraid of her no matter what happens to her, and she thanks him. She tells him she'll never be scared of him too, no matter what, and she hands him a ruby necklace she received from her mother on her 10th birthday. Ryoma notices magic power embedded in it, and she tells him that ruby is a magic stone. He asks her if it doesn't make the item rare and expensive, and she tells him it does. Immediately, he hands it back to her, telling her that it's too precious, but she insists on him keeping it. She tells him that she's not giving him, but rather she wants him to hold on to it as a good luck charm, which is usually done by exchanging precious items with a friend before parting ways. He tells her he will take good care of it, and while he thinks of something very precious to him, he hands her 2 slimes, one cleaner slime and one scavenger slime. She thanks him for trusting her with his familiars, and she promises to take good care of them. The final night passes and morning comes. Hughes tells Ryoma to come and visit their town when he has free time, and Ryoma promises to visit them for sure. They all wish him good luck, and he thanks them for everything. When it remains Ryoma and Eliara, she asks him if it's correct to assume that they are friends. Ryoma tells her it is, and she tells him not to refer to her as if they're strangers, and instead, he should call her by her name, as that is what her family and close friends do. She tells him that she won't let whatever happens to her at school get down on her, and she promises to study hard and improve her magic by the time they meet again. She reminds him of their promise to meet again in 3 years, and tells him that she'll have to remind him by giving him a taste of her magic training if he forgets. She tells him that she wouldn't say goodbye, but instead, she'll see him again. Ryoma arrives late to work after working on his slime for a long while, not noticing how far time has gone, and as usual, his employees are more than capable of doing the job. During Carla's free time, she tells Ryoma that she hopes he continues to come to work a little late because if he came to work before them, he'll do all the work by himself, and there'll be nothing for them to do. She tells him that they still have some newcomers to train, and he should take the opportunity to get used to giving orders, and leave the work to his employees. 2 customers came to complain that they didn't clean the dirt well enough, and the other customers just laughed at them because their plan of creating a very dirty cloth that cannot be cleaned went into complete failure. The troublesome customers ended up being taken to the police, and Ryoma thinks about building a better security system. He decides to try something out and heads to the abandoned mines. He makes the silky slime secret hardening sticky solution and then uses decomposition magic circle to remove the water. He adds more hardening sticky solution and mixes them with the mixing magic circle, after which he removes the water again and repeats the process a few times. After the entire process, it condensed into a transparent board. He tests the board by punching it hard, but the board stands strong, so he figures out it'll be able to function as glass. He makes more of it, and by the time they're done, one of the sticky slimes changes its color to dark green, and immediately Ryoma notices it. He performs a monster appraisal and finds out it's a medicine slime. He doesn't remember signing any contract with such a slime, and when he looks at its skill, he finds out it has a spear mastery skill. He wonders if it was originally a poison slime. He wonders why a poison slime suddenly turned into a medicine slime, and he remembers that an antidote bottle fell from the shelf the previous day, and before he could get the rag, the antidote was all gone. He experiments further on it by feeding some poison slimes with antidotes, and immediately, they turn to medicine slimes. He gets the medicine slime to make some medicines, and only one medicine slime can make ointment, styptic, antidote, immediate effect poison, delayed effect poison, instant effect paralyzing agent, delayed effect paralyzing agent, and antibacterial medicine. Ryoma has been so busy he forgot to say hello to the divine beings. So he decides to go to the church the next day. The next day, he arrived at the church to pray, but he wasn't able to get in contact with the divine beings as usual, so he tried again the second time. And although it was a little delayed, he was still able to gain access. He meets with Tekun, who is the divine being of craftsmanship. He introduces himself to Tekun and goes straight to the point. He notices the sculpture of Elia, Elise, Reinhardt, and Reinbach on the table, just like the one he made, and Tekun tells him that he wanted to have a closer look at them, so he made copies. Tekun tells him that he has heard about his story, but he's interested in technologies of the other world, like making something with foreign technology in other cultures. He tells him that he knows all the technologies in this world, and he's interested in those from the foreign world. Ryoma tells him that it is his hobby to make crafts, and he received many commissions with good payment. Temu tells him that he likes those who put their heart into the work. Ryoma asks if he's the only divine being around, and he replies that the others went loafing on the job. He tells him that the divine being of war, the divine being of magic, and the divine being of land might be pure divine beings for him, but they have their preferred places and they build their home there. Ryoma asks if they are in his home, and Tekun tells him that he doesn't have a home because he's the divine being of craftsmanship, and there are craftsmen all over the world living in different places, so he has to visit regularly. He tells him that the place they're in is connected with the world he lived in, and he can ask the others about the details because he can't explain it well. He tells him that Fernobalia would have given a better explanation. Fernobalia is the divine being of magic and academics, and he's always in his world, which is unfamiliar to them. He's one that they hardly even see amongst the divine beings. Ryoma's time is up, and there's still a lot Tekken wants to tell him so. Ryoma decides to come back later. Ryoma heads to the shop and receives a progress report. He meets with all of them and tells them about his plan to change the glass because the current one can be broken by just anybody. He shows them a sample of the glass he had just made and allows them to test for its strength. After multiple hits, the glass didn't even sustain a scratch. Lylan even tried using strengthening magic, but the glass still stands sturdy. Carla tells Ryoma about opening a second shop in another town, and she tells him to reconsider it because they have more help in the shop now. Ryoma still believes it's too early for him to open a second shop in another town, as he still wants to maintain the connections he built in the town. Ryoma goes to meet with Serge and tells him that he wants to purchase a large sum of medicine bottles as he has more free time, so he wants to make more medicine. Serge tells him that he can register as a pharmacist at the Merchant Guild if he wants a large amount of medicine bottles, and he can get a much lower price if he purchases it as a registered pharmacist. He meets with Glycella and tells her that he wants to purchase medicine bottles. He gives her a sample of disinfectant and antidote, and she checks it out. She tells him that he should be qualified as a pharmacist if he can make these drugs. He tells her that it's not in his plan for now, and she talks about him opening a second shop. He tells her that he thinks it is too early, and she tells him that he can manage a second shop perfectly well, and if he doesn't have enough money, he can sell medicine at the sides while she buys all of them. On his way home, he receives a letter from Ilia's phantom bird. She replies to his letter telling him that she and her family are doing well alongside the slimes he left in her care. He thinks of what to do next, and he concludes by opening a second shop. Ryoma welcomes the branch minister of the Trainer Guild to his store, and on his way he thanks Ryoma for the visit and tells him that he wants to prove that the value of subordinate magicians is not determined solely by the strength of the subordinate monster. He tells him that he wants to look forward to his continuous use of slime. A customer complains that his clothes have been ripped, and he starts to ask for a refund. Ryoma analyzed the cloth well and noticed that it was ripped with a knife. He tells the man that using this type of excuse to stir up trouble is a problem to him, and the customer paints the situation as if he's fairly treated. Ryoma demonstrates the cleaning process to the customers, telling them that there are no jaws or teeth in the cleaning process. He tells the man that they didn't rip the clothes and threatens to turn him over to the police. The man tries to attack Ryoma, but Ryoma counters his attack and hands him over to the police. Carla tells him that she is worried, as it's the second time in a row that someone would come to look for trouble with them. She wonders what their purpose is, and Ryoma tells her that they're trying to ruin their reputation. She tells him that she doesn't see anything good in it, because Bamboo Forest does not have any competition in the industry, so she believes there's something else behind it. She tells him that she'll send Callum to check it out and give him the feedback. Ryoma meets with Asagi on his way home. He notices Asagi's new sword and asks him where he usually gets his sword. Asagi asks him if he wants one for his collection, or one that can be used as a weapon. He tells him to go to the city and he'll find the shop. He tells him that having to replace it every time it breaks is too expensive to afford. He asks Ryoma if he has learned swordsmanship somewhere since he wants a sword, and Ryoma tells him that his late grandfather was a bladesmith and he taught him how to use it. Ryoma wonders if he could just make the sword on his own, so he heads to the abandoned mines. The modern sword-making material is tamahagane, and he has a way to get the charcoal used to make tamahagane. He can also get iron sand, which is another material, and as long as he uses alchemy, he can do as much as he wants in the abandoned mines. He remembers he has a spear which he got from a thief he knocked down when he was still living in the forest, and he figured out it would be a good weapon for him, although the sword would be a better one. Ryoma has little knowledge of sword making, and in his previous world, his father was a bladesmith, and he was taught how to make swords, so he knows the relevant knowledge. His father gave up on teaching him because he thought he had no talent, and instead, he devoted everything to training him in martial arts, where he also learned how to use weapons. The spear also acts as a magical weapon, but has a lower output compared to when Ryoma does it himself. The next day, Carla hands her research to Ryoma, and she concludes that it's a faction struggle, as the branch minister, Taylor, seems to be on shaky ground in the trainer guild. She tells him that the main faction, which values mighty monsters, wants to dethrone Taylor because he's in the anti-main faction that values how to treat and live with monsters. Ryoma wonders if someone is deliberately spreading negative comments about Taylor, and Carla confirms his thoughts. She mentions a statement in the report that says he's sheltering a loser who only knows how to use slimes. She tells him that the two recent incidents seemed like they were aimed at worsening the evaluation of the shop, which the branch minister has high hopes for. Ryoma suggests they spread the truth this time, and Carla tells him that there are many well-informed businessmen in the merchant guild, and it'll be easy to spread such things through them. Ryoma tells her that he recently secured a contract with 6 Limore birds, and if 6 of them spread the word, the people might think that the branch minister has a keen eye. At the closing of the day, Ryoma's new employees, Culkin, Tony, and Lobelia, who are slime researchers, decided that they were going to stay a little longer at work to remember the slime's differences. The 3 of them are subordinate magicians introduced by Jeff the Adventurer. Ryoma plans on giving them a managerial role in the future. They tell him that working with him is far better than working at the Slimes Institute, telling him that the Slimes Institute becomes a place of exile for subordinates whom the boss doesn't like. The slime researchers who got fired from their previous work are enthusiastic to learn more about slimes under Ryoma. Late at night, while Ryoma is heading home, 3 men start to tail him, leaving him with no choice but to take another route while they catch up to him. He teleports to the top of another building and launches 2 of his birds in the air while he attacks 2 of them. The third one tries to run away, so he teleports to his front and paralyzes him too, with a little dose of poison. The third one uses shared feelings with his subordinate monsters and tries to attack a Ryoma with his bird, but Ryoma's bird takes it out mid-flight. Worgen arrived at the scene alongside the police, and the police took them away. The next day, Ryoma tells his employees about the previous night. He tells them that he can't guarantee that they won't be attacked, so he asks that they go home before dark, while Faye and Li Lin will have to strengthen the security. Carla goes along with Ryoma to the meeting with the guildmasters, and in the meeting, Worgen tells Ryoma that he'll have to strengthen the security around him for a while, because when they did their research, they got negative comments. Glycella tells him that there's a guy who's going to attack him like the previous night, so he just has to protect himself and the shop while they take care of the prisoners. She tells him that she has a great way to keep him from getting attacked if he's confident in his abilities. Later at night, Ryoma takes down all of the people attacking him, and when the police come for them, he casts medium healing magic on them, 72 times at 1,000 steers at a time, meaning they'll owe him 72,000 steers. The police pay him off temporarily, while they recover their money from them through forced labor. Ryoma trains his employees on what to do when they are being attacked at the shop. All they have to do is protect themselves and then call Dolce. Dolce was introduced to Ryoma by Jeff, and while he's a little cold, he's serious and very reliable. The rumor about the Limore birds that Ryoma contracted began to spread around thanks to Carla. The revenue growth of the store, as well as increased, and the 3 new standby managers, Culkin, Tony, and Lobelia, have finished learning bookkeeping, while Maria has learnt the basics of subordinate magic from Lobelia. Ryoma tells Clara that they can start pushing for the second shop. Ryoma meets with Glycella, and she tells him that he doesn't have to worry about being attacked anymore. She gives him 3 choices to pick from for his second shop, and on his way home, he receives a letter from Elia telling him that she's working hard in her preparations to study in the city's academy, while she has also been studying magic. She tells him to rest well, and he replies that he cannot rest now as he has to head out to open a second shop in a new town. Ryoma writes to Elia, telling her that he has left Gimel town and is on his way to Loff town by himself to open a second shop. Ryoma arrives at Loff town, and it appears to be a smaller town than Gimel, but very lively. He heads to Mr. Pyoro Sayonji with the letter given to him by Glisella. He arrives at the Sayonji firm and is amazed to see the massive structure. He meets with Pyoro's daughter, Miyabi, and Pyoro meets up with them. Miyabi tells her dad that Ryoma is looking for him, and Ryoma introduces himself to them. Pyoro already heard about the business Ryoma plans to venture into in Loff from Glisella. He tells Ryoma that he'll have to sign a business contract at the guild, and go through all kinds of procedures that he'll have covered. Pyoro tells him that he'll deal with everything at the guild. Miyabi is surprised to hear about a second shop run by Ryoma. She thinks they're the same age, but her father tells her that he is a year younger than she is. Pyoro tells her that the daughter of the shop's founder is named Miyabi, so he named his daughter after her for her achievements. Ryoma asks him what great achievements she has made, and Pyoro replies that she made none. Pyoro tells him that she just lived her life as a regular mascot girl at the shop. On their way to the guild, Pyoro tells him that he doesn't have much to do there, because Glisella had told him about it before he came, so the lands for the shop and all sorts of applications have already been dealt with. So all he has to do is to confirm some paperwork and sign. They arrive at the Merchant Guild, which appears to be a massive building. The building used to be a castle, and it houses the Adventurer Guild, Magic Guild, and the Tamer Guild. Looking outside the window where Ryoma and Pyoro are, they can see magical monsters that belong to the Tamer Guild, and they are tasked to carry people or cargo. The Adventurer Guild collects materials. The Magic Guild is responsible for treatment, and all products will be put on the market by the Merchant Guild and delivered by the Tamer Guild. The whole system was put in place by Pyoro's ancestors, and when they did, they called it an airport. When Ryoma heard Pyoro's surname, he guessed that Pyoro's ancestors might have reincarnated into the world. Ryoka heads to the new shop, which is just right across the street from Pyoro's place. The first floor is the main hall, and it has a few rooms on the second floor. The former owner's house also belongs to Ryoma now, and he can use it as a dormitory for employees. All he needs now is furniture, and the entire shop will be set. He sends one of his Limore birds named Dry to his employees in Gimel, and all they have to do is wait for them. Ryoma already forgot about arranging where to stay for the time being, so Pyoro offers for him to stay at his place. While at Pyoro's place, Ryoma is served miso soup, grilled fish, and rice. Ryoma is surprised that they can get miso soup around, and Pyoro tells him they can also get mirin, vinegar, and soy sauce. Ryoma enjoys the meal, and Miyabi asks him if he has lived in the Dragon Village before. He tells her he hasn't lived there, but his grandma used to make them for him. She tells him not to feel stressed, and she's happy enough just seeing him enjoy the dish. She tells him that she's a bit relieved seeing a side of him that fits his age, as she considers him amazing to open a shop at age 11 and still wants to open a second one. He tells her he's just lucky to have everyone around him taking care of him, while he receives a lot of help as well. Pyoro tells him that he thinks it's amazing enough for him to be so honest at his age, as it is better compared to his daughter. He tells Miyabi to learn from Ryoma, and he wonders how she'll live happily at the academy in the capital if she carries on with her behavior. Miyabi is going to the academy at the capital to know more people as a future merchant, but she doesn't want to go there because she finds it hard and troublesome to build connections with people. Pyoro asks Ryoma what he plans to do the next day, and Ryoma replies that it should take a while for his employees to arrive, so he plans to look for some stuff for the shop, and also job offers for adventurers. Miyabi is surprised to hear that Ryoma is an adventurer, and Ryoma tells her that he's E rank. Pyoro tells him that it's impressive enough considering his age, but there aren't many job offers for E ranks. Miyabi tells him that it is because a strong magical monster appeared on the outskirts of the town, making it difficult to leave town and finish simple commissions. Pyoro tells him that the monster sometimes comes there, and it affects business. Ryoma asks what type of monster it is, and Miyabi tells him that it's a level D smash boar. The name sounds familiar to Ryoma, and he remembers hearing the name from Kai before he reincarnated. The divine being suggested that he use some people's life stories to create his identity in the world, and the divine being wanted him to inherit the stuff those people left behind in their hometown. Their hometown, which is the Sea of Trees of Cyrus, is one of the most dangerous areas in the world, with many strong, magical monsters. If Ryoma wants to go there, he has to have some experience of fighting similar magical monsters, and the Smash Boar is one of them. Ryoma tells them that the Smash Boar is a magical monster he's wanted to fight against. Pyoro tells him that he should try fighting it, but he must take him along because the boar's meat can sell at a nice price. The next day, Pyoro isn't allowed to leave his shop, so he sends Miyabi to go with him. They head out to get some wood material for the shop's furniture. When Pyoro comes to visit later in the day, he's shocked to see the slimes doing all of the work from the cleaning to the entire woodwork. After that, Ryoma heads out to the Adventurers Guild, and all he got as a level E job was herb collecting. When he was done, he received a letter from Eliara. She congratulates him on the news of his second shop and tells him to keep the spirit while he expands his business in all cities and towns. She asks if he can open one in the capital so that she can see him much sooner. She tells him not to push himself too much and take care of himself. The smash boar attacks, and as it runs towards Ryoma, Ryoma brings out his bow and arrow and fires at the boar, but it has no effect on the boar because of its thick hide. He goes close range with the boar, landing blows on its face and finally knocking the boar out with strengthening magic on his fist. The guy and girl that were running away from the boar earlier thanked him for saving them and promised to repay him. They tell him their friend is injured and ask that they be allowed to get her. He asks if he should go with them so he can cast healing magic, and they tell him to wait for them so he doesn't leave his catch unattended while they bring their friend over. Ryoma drains the blood of the boar using his bloody slime so the meat can be left alone and made easier to sell. They arrive with their friend, and looking at her body, it looks like she suffered a direct hit from the charge of the boar, as a few of her bones are broken and some of her bruises are bad. Ryoma casts a healing spell on her and she thanks him for saving her. They hand Ryoma all the cash they have on them as repayment, and even offer to repay him properly when they get back to the guild. But Ryoma tells them not to worry as the money they have is enough as a repayment. They also ran into the boar while collecting herbs, and Ryoma asks for their help to carry the smash boar back to town. He tells them that he came to collect herbs too, and needs them to testify to the guild that he didn't selfishly hunt the smash boar, but encountered it accidentally and hunted it out of necessity. They're surprised to hear that he's an E rank like them, and he introduces himself to them. They also introduce themselves with the injured girl being Philly, the guy being Ken, and the other girl named Luri. When they arrive at the guild, Pyoro is surprised to see the boar. A representative of the Adventurers Guild arrives at their place and tells them that there were eyewitness reports of a smash boar being carried there. He tells them that it is prohibited to hunt dangerous monsters without an official licensed job to do. He asks them to explain what happened, and Ryoma explains to them with the backing of Philly, Ken, and Luri. The representative tells him that he's not in violation of any regulations if that's the case, and he tells him to take the tusk to the guild as proof of the kill so they can pay its bounty. After the representative takes his leave, Philly, Ken, and Luri also take their leave. Ryoma sells all of the meat to Pyoro, except for a few pieces that he'd like to eat. When Pyoro's men start to cut the meat doesn't drain any blood, and this makes the quality super high. Ryoma arrives back home after getting paid for the herb collection and for hunting the smash boar. Pyoro comes in and tells Ryoma that he asked their cooks to come up with something for lunch using the smash boar meat, but it's boring. He asks Ryoma if he has any good ideas for the meat, and seeing as it looks like pork, Ryoma offers to try something. Miyabi offers to help him out, and after acquiring all the ingredients they need, they start cooking. Ryoma makes ginger pork, that is, ginger smash boar and boar soup. And just by having a taste of it, Miyabi and Pyoro enjoy the meal and compliment his cooking skill. The next day, Ryoma finds Miyabi selling the smash boar with ginger. Carla, alongside Kalkin, Tony, and Lobelia, arrives at the new shop, and Ryoma is done with the big things. All that remains is the smaller details, and the shop would be ready to open. Carla tells Ryoma that the location seems to be a good one with lots of shops around, and Ryoma tells her that he's glad they introduced him to that place. Carla also hired 3 new employees for the second shop. 2 of them are clerks who will also perform bodyguard duty, and 1 is a chef. Ryoma introduces himself to them and tells them not to hesitate, to let him or Carla know if they feel like something is uncomfortable or difficult. Carla tells Ryoma to list out the things they need to do to open the shop. And finally, the opening of the second shop is coming closer. Pyoro and Miyabi notice that Ryoma's preparation over the last 3 days was super fast and can't believe the pace they're moving at with such a small headcount. Miyabi tells him that Ryoma must have hired some great people, and he tells her that it's not just that, but if she looks carefully, she'll see Ryoma at the center of all the work. Finally, the Bamboo Laundry Service's second shop opens, and Pyoro alongside Miyabi are the first customers. Ryoma writes to Eliara, telling her that the second shop has been opened, and because of the experience of the first shop, it feels like he's running the business smoothly. He also has some customers who are on track to becoming regulars. At the closing of the day, Ryoma addresses his staff and thanks them for doing such great work. Ryoma leaves for Gamul the next morning after successfully opening the second shop and setting it off to a good start. Every one of them comes out to greet him goodbye. He thanks them and tells them to take care of themselves. Ryoma asks Miyabi if she'll be attending the academy in the royal capital starting the current year. He asks asks her for a favor and tells her there's a girl named Eliara who will also be attending the academy as well in the current year. He tells her that she's a nice girl and asks her to be nice to her too. Ryoma feels that he should look up the Great Forest of Schluss when he gets back to Gimel. On his way back, he receives a letter from Ryoma asking him how life was in the new city. She tells him she's starting a new life in the royal capital, so she's trying to read herself by referencing the content of his letter. She tells him she's concentrating more on training her taming magic. Ryoma brings back a souvenir for Sebas, a package of rare condiments. Sebas tells him that he plans to spend a week in the town of Caliban to visit the magic item market. Sebas shows him the scale model of a Magimobile, a car powered by magic. The Magimobile is a carriage-sized vehicle that people can ride in, and it has a large race held in the capital every year. Sebas owns one too, and he enjoys it as a hobby. Callum tells Ryoma that the cleaner slime ate out of the charcoal he placed in the kitchen. The charcoal was supposed to have good effects like cleaning the air and decreasing humidity. Callum tells him that they thought the effect would be helpful elsewhere, so they put it in the laundry room and the slime ate it. He tells Ryoma that according to Miss Maria and the others, after the slime started eating charcoal, it started eating less laundry grime. Callum apologizes to Ryoma and tells him that it was his fault since he was the one tasked with taking care of the shop. Ryoma tells him not to worry about it and thanks him for noticing it. He tells Callum that the cleaner slime is about to evolve, so he'll take care of the slime for now. Ryoma tells him to let him know if he sees any other similar slimes. Ilia replies to Ryoma's letter, and she tells him that she's rather surprised that the cleaner slime is evolving. She tells him to let her know what abilities it gets once it evolves, and also tells him that the story about the Magic Item market was interesting. She tells him that she has never visited the market and asks him to write about it to her whenever he visits it. Ryoma tells Callum that he's thinking of visiting his hometown, as he left behind some heirlooms that his grandparents left him. He tells him that he'll like to prepare for the trip, so he'll like to focus more on his work as an adventurer. Callum tells him that he understands and he'll take care of the shop. He asks Ryoma where his hometown is, and Ryoma replies that it's in the Great Forest of Schluss. Callum is surprised to hear that it's his hometown. He tells him that it is a dense forest filled with countless monsters, and is one of the most dangerous places in the world. Ryoma tells him that he plans to raise his rank as an adventurer, and go back the proper way, so it'll be a while before he goes there. Ryoma meets with Maylene, the receptionist at the Adventurers Guild. He tells her that his business is running smoothly, so he'll like to do more adventurer work. Maylene introduces Ryoma to Paina, who's also a receptionist at the Adventurers Guild. She asks Ryoma if she can put Paina in charge of his issue so she can get more experience quickly. They head upstairs, and Paina asks him to tell them what he needs. He tells them that it's about his activities moving forward, and he tells them that he has set a new goal to currently raise his rank to C. He tells them that he's looking for jobs that involve either Treant, Mad Salamander, or Caliph Monkey. Paima tells him that some of those aren't suited for rank E adventurers, and he tells her that he'll take on them as he raises his rank, but he'd like to get information on them beforehand. He tells them he'd like to know their basic information, like their biology and their habitat, with the latest information they have. He asks about the Great Forest of Schluss, and tells them that he'd like to learn about the monsters in that area. Maylene asks if he's trying to go to the forest, and he tells her he is. She tells Paina to prepare the contract, and Paina hands it over to her for confirmation, before handing it to Ryoma, for him to confirm the content and sign if everything is in order. He signs the contract and Paina hands him his proof of the exchange. She tells him that he'll need it when he comes back for the item, and she tells him to make sure he doesn't lose it. Maylene asks Ryoma if he would be taking on any jobs. He tells her he is, and he doesn't mind if it's a bit tough. He asks if there's something short-term that might let him raise his rank quickly. Paina quickly helps him grab a job. The job is a parcel delivery to Caliban, and the desired delivery date is noon of the next 2 days. The time frame looks impossible, and Paima tells Ryoma that she saw him use space magic the other time, so she's thinking he can pull it off. Ryoma agrees to take the job. Caliban is the town that Mr. Surge was talking about, where the magic item market is taking place. This is a good opportunity for Ryoma to check it out. Ryoma arrives at Caliban, and he is told that the market starts the next day, and it's for magic items. There are usually 6 markets every year. Ryoma arrives at Dinome's magic item workshop, so he brings out the parcel and delivers it. He is offered a cup of tea before he leaves. Ryoma drinks the tea and notices that it tastes more like coffee than tea. He asks what kind of tea it is, and he's told that it's the root of a flower named Dante, which is supposed to be good for one's health. Ryoma thanks him for the tea, and as he's about to take his leave, Serge walks in. Serge tells the man that they are the ones getting support from Ryoma, and he asks Ryoma what he's doing there. Ryoma tells him and asks him the same question. He tells Ryoma that this is one of the magic item workshops that he frequents, so he came to say hello before the market began. The man introduces himself as Dinome, and Ryoma introduces himself to the man. Dinome goes to show them some Magimobiles and a new model with an improved engine and a lightened chassis. Dinome tells them that he needs money to send his grandson to school in the capital, because he believes he might be a great genius. When they leave Dinome's office, Serge asks Ryoma what he has planned for the day, and Ryoma tells him that he needs to find a place to stay. Serge tells him that he can introduce him at the inn he's staying at and show him around the market the next day if he likes. After taking him to the inn, Serge tells him that he has several more places to visit, but he'll be back in the evening for them to have dinner together. Later in the evening, Serge and Ryoma head out for dinner, and Ryoma shows him the music box he worked on using the magic item Dinome gave him earlier. Serge admires the music box and tells him that he has never seen something like it before. He tells him that there are magic items that are music items, but there's nothing that automatically plays music. Ryoma tells him that it's a toy, and he tells Ryoma that many nobles are very fond of toys like these, so he asks that he put some effort into the appearance and assures him that it'll sell. They enjoy their dinner and continue the discussion on their way home. On their way home, Serge tells him to commission someone if he's willing to sell the items, and tells him to ask Dinome, as he already seems to like him. Ryoma writes to Eliara, telling her that he's currently visiting Caliban. The market starts and many magic items are being advertised. Serge and Ryoma visit Dinome and tell him that there's a business proposition that he'd like to discuss. Ryoma sees Fedele, the grandson of Dinome, and they play with each other while Serge and Dinome head inside to have their meeting. Dinome accepts the music box deal, and Ryoma leaves a toy with Fedele before taking his leave. Ryoma arrives back home late at night, and he notices that the slime that ate charcoal has started to evolve. When it is done, Ryoma uses the monster appraisal to check it out, and he finds out that it's a deodorant slime with the skill of displacing odor, deodorizing, resisting odor, and absorbing odor. It is similar to the cleaner slime, but more focused on odor. The next day, Ryoma tells Callum that he wants to run some experiments using the fluid produced by the deodorant slime, which should absorb odors. He brings bags that contain cotton dipped in the odor absorption solution, and asks Callum to put the bags in different areas of the shop. He tells Callum that he thinks the odor absorption limit differs depending on the amount of solution, and Callum replies that he has nothing but respect for his passion for research. Ryoma goes to ask around if anyone can be of help with the experiment. Later at home, Ryoma feels bad for Callum, but he wants to stockpile some feed before he goes to sleep, because the more they eat, the faster they multiply. While the iron and metal slimes are having fun, Ryoma notices that they can maintain their metallic properties while changing shape. He turns one of them into a sharp knife and uses it to cut a plank of wood. Seeing how sharp it is, he figures out that it can be of help to him in the great forest of Schluss. The next day, while Ryoma is meeting with Callum, Mia bursts into the room and tells Ryoma that she wants more of the smell cleaning bags. He thanks her for helping with the experiment, and she tells him that she put it in the trash heap 2 days ago and the smell was gone until the morning. Ryoma takes a look at it and finds out that the bag has absorbed the maximum amount of smell and lost its effect. He tells her he'll help her get some more odor absorption solution and a sample of a new deodorizing solution. He tells her to place both of them in the same place, and she tells him that she wants to see it completed as soon as possible, so she'll help in any way she can. Ryoma hopes to get it in the market soon by gathering data like this. A young boy's cart breaks down the street and the trash pours on the floor. Ryoma meets with them and offers to fix the cart for them. He uses the sticky slimes to fix the broken edges of the cart. Ryoma asks them for a favor. He gives them a small cleaning bag, and they're surprised he can use magic. They notice the smell of the garbage left immediately. Ryoma puts the bag on it, and Ryoma tells them he needs it for an experiment. He tells them that he wants to know how long they last before the effect wears off. He tells them his name and describes the shop to them in case they need to contact him. They introduce themselves to him, with the smaller one being Beck and the older one being Wick, and they thank him. Beck promises to give Ryoma a good deal, so he takes Ryoma to the church, telling him that they hand out free snacks once every 2 months if they can help clean the place. He tells Ryoma that free snacks are his way of showing thanks, so they clean the church. While they're cleaning, Ryoma finds himself summoned by Fernabilia. He tries introducing himself, and Fernabilia tells him that he has heard about him. Ryoma wonders why he met another divine being when he didn't pray at all. Fernabilia introduces himself and tells Ryoma that he'll be able to go back once the time is right. Fernabilia asks Ryoma what his original world was like, and Ryoma tells him that it's hard to explain in brief, but before he can explain further, some lockers change position, and Fernobelia asks him for his favorite food. The lockers continue to change position while Fernobelia asks Ryoma what his opinion on academics or romance is. Ryoma still hasn't answered the first question, and Fernobelia tells him that he appreciates his cooperation. He tells Ryoma that his heart already had the answers when he reacted to his words, and he took the liberty of reading them. He apologizes and tells him that he was being cautious because not all transfers are like him, as some become addicted to power and commit crimes, while others unwittingly cause tragedies by losing control of their powers, which is why he wanted to study him first. Fernobelia appreciates Ryoma for sympathizing with his points. He tells him that they never bring individuals with clearly dangerous beliefs into their world, but there's no way for them to prevent transfers from latter turning evil. Ryoma tells him that he'll do his best to make sure it doesn't happen, and Fernobelia tells him that those who casually make absolute assurances are the least trustworthy. He asks Ryoma a final question, which is his opinion on the world. Ryoma tells him he is glad he came, and he returns to the church. Ryoma continues to clean, and after they're done, they engage in a little combat training just like they do. The combat training is usually led by Worgen, and when he arrives, they're surprised to see that Ryoma knows Worgen. They engage in the combat training with Worgen leading them, and after that, Ryoma thanks them for teaching him a lot, and they take their leave. Worgen asks Ryoma if he'd like to become an instructor at the guild, telling him that he has what it takes. Ryoma tells him that he appreciates the offer, but it's a bit much for him because he'll first need to study how to teach before he can start doing it. Ryoma tells Worgen that he was surprised to see him teach children, and Worgen tells him that it's the least he could do as the church is run by just 2 nuns. On Ryoma's way home, he receives a letter from Eliara telling him that she's studying how to make sweets, and once she goes to the academy in the royal capital and makes friends, she wants to make cakes and eat with them. She tells him she's thinking of having a tea party with handmade cakes as she believes it to be a great way to deepen her friendships. Eliara tells Ryoma that she's going to move to a dormitory in the capital soon, and this is the first time she's moving and living alone, so she's a bit scared. She knows she'll be fine because she always gets her emotional support from Ryoma. She tells him that she thinks there's a festival coming up in his town soon and asks him to enjoy it along with the people at his shop. Ryoma thinks about what gift he can send to Eliara while she's moving out, and after thinking it deeply, he makes a handmade soap. He gives the soap improvements in multiple areas, also changing its look to one that Eliara might like. Ryoma meets with Callum and asks him about the festival that is said to come up soon in the town. Callum tells him that he knows nothing about it, and he asks if he should look into it. Ryoma tells him there's no need for that, and Callum tells him that someone who has lived in the town for a long time might know about it. Ryoma goes on to ask Dolce about the festival, and Dolce tells him that it might be the Founding Festival. The Founding Festival is a festival celebrating the founding of the town, and during the festival, a band of traveling entertainers come and perform, and many stalls open up along the main street. He tells Ryoma that anyone can apply to open a stall, but it's not mandatory. Ryoma feels that the stall might be worth a try if his employees are interested. Dolce tells him that the residents sometimes do a town-wide cleaning activity after the festival, and Ryoma tells him he'd love to help out since his shop gets a lot of support from the town. Callum is from a town called Luiyam. Faye and Li Ling are from a country called Gilmar, and Dolce is the only local who is Ryoma's employee. Callum tells Ryoma that Carla just sent a message from Loff that the cleaner slimes at the second shop suddenly started to multiply rapidly. He tells Ryoma that Carla said there were too many, so Culkin and the others were not able to enter into a contract with all of them. Ryoma heads there immediately and is faced with a total of 75 non-contracted slimes. Ryoma completes the taming contract with all of them, and he asks Callum if he thinks there's any reason why they multiplied fast. Callum gives him the result of their investigation, and it says that the cleaner slimes stocked up on a lot of nutrition, so they started making more deodorizing solutions than they could sell, and unless they are allowed to spend some of their energy, they'll continue to multiply. Callum tells him that they plan not to limit their production of deodorizing solution, and instead, they'll just discard the excess to prevent the multiplication process. Ryoma approves of the solution, and is glad that they came to work with him. After that, Ryoma spent the whole night discussing slimes with Culkin and the others. Before Ryoma takes his leave the next morning, he decides to say hi to Pioro, and getting to his store, he notices a weird smell which was caused by shapaya, also known as fermented fish. It was brought by one of Pioro's employees, and it is said to make great preserved food. Pioro asks Ryoma if he can do something about the smell, and Ryoma shows him a deodorant slime, telling him that it can make a fluid that absorbs smells. Pioro asks asks if it's different from the deodorant solution he was selling before, and Ryoma tells him it is because the deodorizing solution wasn't good for dampening the smell over a large area. He uses the deodorant slime to absorb all of the bad smell, and tells him that the effect should only last about a day or so. He hands Pyoro a bag of the odor absorption solution, and tells him to let him know how long the odor absorption effects last. Pyoro offers him a barrel of shapaya, telling him that it'll help him in his travels against monsters, as the smell is enough to send the monsters running. Ryoma tells Pyoro that he wanted to say hi to Miss Miyabi before he left, and Pyoro tells him that Miyabi is on her way to the royal capital. Ryoma arrives back at Gimel after taking care of the cleaner slimes issue. Callum tells him that Serge wants to schedule a meeting with him. He tells Callum to let Serge know that he's available at any time. Callum tells Ryoma that the village where Fina and the others are from sent a gift, and Jane would give him the details. The gifts appear to be extremely much, and it's not unusual because some parents want to ensure that their children are being treated well, so they offer it as a form of bribe. Jane tells him that they want to thank the manager and the other co-workers, so they sent wheat and samisa. Samisa is a local crop from their village, and has a pleasant smell like sesame from earth. Ryoma tells Jane it must be a burden, so he asks that they don't send any gifts like it anymore, because it won't change how they're being treated. Ryoma tells her he'll pay the proper price for the wheat and samisa and they can use it to cook at the shop. Ryoma thinks about talking to Serge later to see if he can start buying from the village if he can confirm that the wheat and samisa are of good quality. Serge meets with Ryoma and gives him an update on the current situation. He shows Ryoma the completed sample of the music box and tells him that they're already lined up to start sales. He tells Ryoma that they're thinking of revealing it at the founding festival. The tune to be played was provided by the Semroid troupe, who will be performing at the festival. The Semroid troupe is a group of traveling entertainers led by a bard. The leader is a young person, but their fame has been rapidly increasing. They plan to use the empty lot beside Ryoma's store for their performance. Serge tells him that they'd like to borrow part of his shop as a green room. Ryoma tells him that the shop might not be fit for that purpose. He asks if the extra rooms in the dormitory, and Serge tells him it'll be wonderful. After the meeting, Ryoma hears Selma scream on his way down, and he rushes to her. She tells him that the food in the barrel is rotten, and samisa alongside the deodorizing solution from the deodorant slime was used to remove the smell from the shapaya before roasting for everyone to eat. After they had all eaten, Callum thought about opening a stall at the founding festival so they could provide dishes from different areas to people who came to see the performance. Ryoma asks the others what they think about it, as it is extra work outside their usual duties, and they all agree to help. Ryoma and the staff make a menu of items they believe should sell well at their stall during the Foundation Festival. The Semroid troupe would arrive at night at the earliest, and Ryoma plans on using their reaction whenever they try the food to narrow down their selections. Callum raises his concern to Ryoma later on. He tells Ryoma that they'll still be short-staffed even if they narrow down the menu. He tells Ryoma to consider hiring some temporary staff. The leader of the Semroid troupe arrives, and he meets with Ryoma. The leader introduces himself as Prenance Semroid. He compliments Ryoma for his invention of the exquisite little box, which plays delicate music. He tells Ryoma that the music box will allow him to distribute his music far and wide, and thanks him for providing them with a green room. On their way to Gimel, they traveled on the highest alert during the entire trip. Callum asks them if something happened, and Prenance tells him that they traveled across the southern plains and were told that tunnel ants were seen along the highway. Tunnel ants are monsters that specialize in digging the ground and building vast colonies underground. Carriages that travel over these colonies could cause a collapse which will end up trapping them. Prenance and his team were able to escape such a disaster, and Serge hopes it doesn't affect the preparation or turnout of the Foundation Festival. Ryoma decides to head over to the place the next day while Callum handles the shop and preparations for the party. Ryoma meets with Paina and tells her that he heard tunnel ants were spotted in the southern plains. Paina hands him tunnel ants related jobs, and Ryoma asks her for the one that needs the most help. She tells him it is the colony locating part, as it's a time-consuming job, so it's not popular. Ryoma decides to join in on that part. On the field, Ryoma uses his Limore bird's help to find the tunnel ant colonies. While they're flying about, Ryoma shares his sensation to get their views. According to Paina, tunnel ants pile the soil they dig up around their colonies, so he just has to find the ground that appears to have been dug up for him to find the colony. He finds the colony, and just after it, he sees Beck and Wick, so he heads out to them. The both of them are just getting back from an herb collecting job. 3 other children are also going around with Beck and Wick. One of them is an elf named Finya. The second is Ruth, and the third is Rumilo. The five of them took up the hunting part of the job, as they wanted to collect their carapaces. They tell Ryoma that they have a big bro in the slums who's apprenticing as an armorer, so they plan to bring him materials while he makes armor and shields and stuff for cheap. Wick tells Ryoma that they couldn't find the ants, and Ryoma offers to take them to the ant colonies. He tells them that he took on the colony locating part of the job. Ryoma takes them to the colony and brings out his metal and iron slimes, and he commands them to move forward in a horizontal line. Slimes are good at detecting danger, so the point where the slimes refuse to tread on is the point where the ant colonies are. Using this, Ryoma was able to locate the ant colony while he left the killing to the children. After the killing, Wick and the others gathered more than enough carapaces as it was getting late. They haul the entire carapaces back home, and when they get home, they thank Ryoma, telling him that they now have enough carapaces to have armor made for all of them. The kids plan on getting 5 full sets of armor, and after that, they may not have enough money to spend during the Foundation Festival, so they plan on going again the next day to hunt as many ant monsters as they did. They have a problem of knowing how to locate the colonies, and Rumile says that Ryoma can just come along with them. Beck tells her not to be selfish and tells Ryoma not to worry about what she said. Ryoma tells them he'll be busy as he's supposed to put up a stall for the Foundation Festival. Ryoma comes late for his meeting, but immediately he arrives, he introduces the kids to Callum and tells him that he met them while he was doing his job for the guild, so he was hoping they could help them with the stall. The kids are surprised to see Dolce, and Dolce tells Callum and Ryoma that he takes care of them sometimes in the slums. Callum doesn't see any issue in their employment again, since Ryoma recommends them, and Dolce knows them. Callum introduces himself to them, and Ryoma asks him if it'll be alright to have them join the party at night. Callum tells him it's fine as they already prepared extra food. Ryoma tells them that the event is for everyone to get to know each other before the festival. He asks Dolce to take care of them, and he goes in to greet everyone. Ryoma addresses everyone in the gathering. He tells them to work together to make the festival a great one. They begin to serve the variety of food, and Prenance compliments the party, saying that the food exceeded his expectations. Sardio and his niece, Maya, are sword dancers. They are masters in the art of slicing things with their swords while dancing. Prenance tells Ryoma to call on them if anything happens because he believes that every festival has fights. Sardio tells Ryoma to feel free to ask either him or Maya if he needs anything. He tells Maya that they'll help provide security at the establishment. The kids also enjoy their meal, and Beck asks Ryoma how he's so strong. Beck asks Ryoma if he doesn't ever feel scared while he's fighting. Ryoma tells him that he's concentrating when he's fighting, so he doesn't feel scared. He tells him to work hard, and he'll learn through training and experience. Later at night, Ryoma apologizes to Callum for bringing them all of a sudden, and Callum tells him not to, as he was the one who suggested they needed more help. He thanks Ryoma for taking care of the situation quickly. Back at home, Ryoma writes to Eliara, telling her that they held a party to get everyone to know each other for the festival, and the huge turnout made him realize that he has so many people in his life that he can call friends. While Eliara is about to take off, her parents wish her a safe trip to school, and Reinbach tells her that he's sure being the daughter of the Duke would attract some unwanted attention, but she should be able to handle it. Elia's class is in session, and in the last class they learned the basics of magic. She tells them that those who weren't able to feel the magic power inside their body would be doing the same training, while those who will move on to the next step, which is to control the magic power in their body to expel it outwards. 1 month after Elia's arrival, she suffers from extreme boredom as all of the lessons she's being taught are basic things she has learned before coming to the school. The title of Duke's daughter pushes people away from her. She meets with Count Wildan's eldest daughter, Michelle. Michelle tries greeting her officially, but she tells her that their status doesn't matter in the academy. Michelle asks her what she's doing outside all alone, and Aaliyah tells her it's not that she's facing an actual problem, but the lessons are a little boring. Michelle tells her she understands too, and she's mostly just pretending to take lessons. Miyabi peeks on the both of them while they're conversing. Michelle tells Aaliyah that she ends up not having anyone to talk to because she's trying to avoid getting involved in weird factions. Aaliyah tells her that she thought she was popular. Michelle tells her that she was popular because several female students had the wrong idea of her being a guy, and it made her get their attention for a while. She tells Aaliyah that she's there to experiment. Aaliyah wonders if she's an alchemist, and she tells her that she's studying a form of magic called Magic Circle Science. Magic Circle Science is a minor field of study branched off from alchemy, and the only teacher who taught it in the school quit the previous year, so she has no choice but to learn it on her own. She tells Elia that she's impressed that she knew about alchemy and magic circles because the general public seems to have misconceptions about alchemy, but she doesn't. Michelle tells Aaliyah that she'd like to learn more about alchemy from her, if possible, and Eliara tells her that she doesn't know anything about alchemy. Michelle begins her experimentation, and Eliara watches her. Michelle uses ink mixed with cruciate fire and neutral elemental magic crystals to draw magic circles so that she can send magic energy through them and start a fire. Eliara asks her why she's conducting the research, and Michelle replies that it's because it's interesting. She tells Eliara that if a field lacks research, it means there's more to discover. Michelle starts her experiment, and as Eliara is standing back, Miyabi walks in. The experiment startles Miyabi a little, and Michelle apologizes to her. Miyabi apologizes for interfering, and Michelle tells her that she didn't interfere at all. Miyabi tells Eliara she has a message from an acquaintance who happens to be a boy. She tells her that it's from Ryoma, and the message he sent was just him wishing her good luck because he seemed a little worried about her. Eliara sees this as an opportunity that Ryoma set up for her to meet Miyabi. She thanks Miyabi and asks her if they can make the best of the opportunity and become friends. Miyabi accepts the friend request, and Michelle joins in. Michelle suggests that they form a team for practical training. They all had worries about joining a team, as the existing team is mostly based on status, so they didn't seem very comfortable to be in. The teams are supposed to have 5 or 6 people, so they'll need to find 2 or 3 more people. Eliara wonders if they can find someone who doesn't care about status, and Michelle tells them that she can think of only one person, which is Riella Clifford. Riella Clifford is the eldest daughter of Baron Clifford. Her family used to be a family of knights, and was granted the status of Baron through their successes. Riella is very proud of herself, and she can be a bit fussy about rules, but she never looks down on others based on status. The 3 of them meet with Riella after her fight, and Riella tells them that it'll be an honor to join their team. Riella is top of the class in swordsmanship, and is being sought after by many teams. She received a few invitations, but she doesn't want to join anyone who mistakes the honor of nobility with boastful pride. Only Riella can fight close-ranged amongst all of them, so they need another close-ranged ally. Miyabi tells them that she can think of the last person to join them, but the girl is unfortunately a scout type, who is good at traps and covert actions. Her name is Kanan, and she's a commoner, skilled with her fingers and good with crafts. Riella tells them that she has no issues if her personality is good, and the others agree with it. Miyabi goes to talk to Kanan. She tells her that she's looking for a member to join her team, and Kanan immediately accepts. Kanan is from the Schuser family, and they're quite famous for their magic item crafts. She is considered a failure where magic item crafting is concerned. She tells them she is an enchanter magician that specializes in enchanting magic. Enchantment magic was developed by a person with a unique idiosyncrasy and can only be used by those who are born in that bloodline. The bloodline has grown and spread over the years, but on rare occasions, a person is born with the same idiosyncrasy as the progenitor, and that person is Kanan. Kanan can't use any magic apart from enchanting magic, and to create crafts, normal magic is needed alongside enchantment. Magic meaning she'll need the help of others to create magic crafts. To work with others, she'll need to be compatible with them, but she hasn't been able to get anyone. Even after hearing all these, they still allow her to join their team. During the first practical training session, other teams start to rumor, saying that their teams will fail. They begin the 2-night outdoor camping training. The students are forbidden from interacting with other teams, so they're expected to do the work for their teams themselves. The other teams find it hard to set up their tent and light fires, except Elia's team. They rest for the night with the hope of waking up early the next morning. The next morning, a team's tent suddenly fell and hurt a lady, but it didn't turn out to be serious. Her team member tries to blame 2 other girls for not building their tent, and one of the girls tells them it's their fault for being bad at building tents. Eliara uses a healing slime to heal the girls' injuries, and the entire case gets settled. They build toilets, set traps, prepare meals, and even fetch water. The students are supposed to return to school the next day, and as a result of the camping, they were able to interact well with each other. Eliara writes to Ryoma telling him she now has people she can call friends. Ryoma's staff plan the layout of the Foundation Festival stall. They think about making it a wider space to lay out the merchandise, so they make some corrections. The Semroid troupe begins their rehearsals too, and they use magic to make their swords shine, making it a cool visual effect. Worgen meets with Ryoma and thanks him for taking up the tunnel ant job. He tells him that he thought he was planning on being a full-time merchant, and he also heard he was trying to raise his adventurer rank. Ryoma tells him he's going to have to take his time with it, but he'll like to. Worgen asks him if he can make himself available over the next few days, and he tells him that there's a certain job he'd like his help with. He tells Ryoma that the specific task is gathering materials, but they'll need a space magic user because the amount of materials is huge. He tells Ryoma that he'll be able to hunt a monster he wants to take on. Worgen assembles a party and briefs them on the details of the job. He tells them that the Treant wood is needed for the town renewal project. He tells them that they plan on building a new tourist attraction to serve as a new source of income for the country, in case there's no more ore to mine in the town. He tells them that they specifically want to build a new town for tourists outside the South Gate and place a fighting arena at its center. Worgen appoints Asagi as the leader, and Ryoma is brought in as a space magic user, but he wants experience in fighting Treants. Worgen tells them to get ready by the next morning and head out to the location. The next morning, they head out to reach the target forest by nightfall. Asagi tells them that they'll set camp there for the night and start the hunt the next morning. He tells them he'll update them on the things they should watch out for when fighting Treants. He tells them that Treants move their branches around to attacks, so attention should be paid to attacks coming from above. Especially, their weakness is the human face-like lump on the trunk, and to finish it off, they have to damage the lump itself, or cut off the area below the lump. The face-like lump is a way to differentiate regular trees from Treants, and they also possess magic power, which makes it easy for them to be identified. After arriving at the forest, they set up tents, and Ryoma set up a table and chair to allow them to discuss. Asagi tells them that he will work with Mia and the others to fight the Treants, while Leipin and Ryoma will carry the fallen Treants. Leipin will additionally search for and take caution against surrounding Treants, while Ryoma guards Leipin, and once the situation stabilizes, Ryoma will join in the fight. The next morning, they head out into the forest, and Leipin sights one immediately. He describes the tree to Mia, and they attack the tree swiftly, cutting it down with ease. Ryoma uses his slimes to push the log into the dimension home created by Leipin. Leipin notices 3 more ahead, and Leipin attacks the center one, while the others attack the ones by the sides. Leipin notices another one ahead, so he tells Ryoma to go for it, and Ryoma takes the treant down. Leipin finds it strange because treants usually prefer dark areas deep inside the forest, so he doesn't expect them to be out there in such high numbers. Asagi tells them to head back to the camp and take a lunch break, and on their way back, Ryoma notices something strange. During lunch, Asagi compliments Ryoma's attack earlier and tells him to take on the Treants they miss. He tells him not to push himself too hard, and that keeping himself and Leipin safe should be his priority. Ryoma uses his metal slime and iron slime together as a weapon. The metal slime is the scabbard, while the iron slime is the blade. A fluff slime flies past them, and Ryoma asks Leipin if he can catch it. Leipin uses his pickup skill, and easily, he brings it to the table. The pickup skill is a form of space magic that transports the target close to the user. It only works on targets within visual range, and it has a very difficult aim, so not many people can use it. Leipin gives the slime to Ryoma and tells him to tame it. After completing the contract, Ryoma identifies its skills and he sees fleet, lightweight, and a level 8 multiplication level. He tells Leipin that he'll think about what he can do with the slime after they finish the job. They go back to hunting, and they notice that an area that had normal trees when they came in the morning suddenly has more than half of it as Treants. Leipin tells them that there could be a dangerous evolved species nearby, but they can't turn back, so they'll have to keep their guards up and investigate the cause if it's something they cannot handle. They start their attack, and at a point, they get short-staffed on the front lines, so Ryoma joins in on the attack. Swiftly, they take down all the treants in that area, and they move to the next area with speed, taking down all of the treants. Ryoma notices that everyone would get tired quickly if they continue to move at their current rate, so he decides to speed things up by turning his metal slimes into throwable weapons, and then attacking the treants with a one-hit, one-kill attack. After taking down all of the treants, they notice a particular treant that is more powerful than expected. Leipin recognizes it to be the Elder Treant, and they know they have to do something about it because it can turn the entire forest into treants if it is left alone. As they walk towards the Elder Treant, some treants cover the Elder Treant. As they are getting closer, they get attacked from underground, and Ryoma creates a pavement to buy them time. Ryoma and Leipin stay behind to provide cover while Cilia protect them. The rest of them attack the Elder Treant, but as they try to attack it, it uses darkness magic to corrode their weapons. Ryoma tries to attack it with pure iron, but the darkness magic does not affect it, so he creates weapons for them, and tells them to buy him time while he uses a Morning Star to knock out the Elder Treant and then deal the final blow on it. After defeating the Elder Treant, a box of magic crystals was found beneath it, and the magic crystals were used to feed excess magic energy to the Elder Treant. The party for the Adventurers Guild heads back home, and while they're almost approaching Gimul, Ryoma wonders if the Foundation Festival preparation is going okay. Asagi notices the worry on his face, and tells him that he can go ahead and head home, while they take care of reporting to the guild. Ryoma insists on going with them, because his dimension home has all the Treant wood too. Leipin tells him that he can transfer the wood to his dimension home, and he takes him on his offer. When Ryoma drops, Mia tells him that she'll visit him at the festival for sure, and he tells her that he'll be waiting. Ryoma arrives back at the store to meet all of his employees working. Ryoma is surprised to see how far everything has gone, and even the Semroid Troop members carrying out their construction work cleanly. The Semroid Troop members built the stage in 2 days, and not just the stage alone, but also their stall. Callum comes outside and sees that Ryoma has arrived. Ryoma tells him that he's surprised things are moving along so quickly. Callum tells him that there's something he wants to discuss with him concerning that. When they enter the shop, Callum tells him it's about the drinks. He tells him that while Dolce and the others were building the stall itself, they were trying to figure out the menu, and they were able to decide on the food pretty quickly, but they still haven't decided on the drinks. They have different varieties of food, but just water and juice for the drinks. Callum tells Ryoma that Li Ling suggested that there should be something unique on the drinks menu as well. Selma suggests they add the Dante tea that Ryoma drinks sometimes to the menu. Ryoma tells them that it's completely personal, and it had to make enough to offer at a stall with so little time left, meaning that the rarity wouldn't make it a good fit. After careful thinking, Ryoma makes barley tea using the grains they got from Jane's hometown earlier. He roasts the grains and boils them to produce the tea, and then adds ice to keep it chilled. He tells them to give it a try, and after they all take a sip, they enjoy the taste of the tea. They agree to add it to the menu since the review is positive and they have the ingredients needed. The preparation is in its final stages, and the only thing left is polish and production. Prenance asks Ryoma to make an ice sculpture for him. He tells him he has a great idea for the show and has been told that Ryoma is quite the sculptor. He asks Ryoma to lend his skills, and Ryoma tells him that he'll gladly do that. He asks Prenance what kind of thing he should do, and Serge walks in. Serge tells them that there's something he'd like the both of them to see. He shows them the music box to sell at the festival as the delivery from Denome just arrived. Ryoma asks if they could listen, and Serge plays it for them. The stage is completely set, and all that's left is for the Semroid Troop to double their efforts and display the best performance of their careers. The festival starts in 2 days, and Ryoma appears to be tired, so Callum tells him that he can leave immediately and take the next day off. He tells Ryoma that they'll need his help on the day of the festival, so he should rest and recoup his energy. The next day, Ryoma checks out the fluff slime, and he sees how the high multiplication skill works. A dragon from the Dragoons Guild in Loff suddenly flies past Ryoma, and looking at who's riding it, he notices Pioro, so he runs into the city. He meets with Pioro, and Pioro asks about his shop, telling him that Carla told him that he'll be doing a stall for the Foundation Festival. He tells Pioro that they finished setting it up the previous day, so he's taking the day off. He asks Pioro why he's around, and Pioro tells him that he has a rush order, and they wanted it delivered that day, no matter what. He tells Ryoma that they ordered some pretty rare stuff, and he got curious about what they're using it for, so he came all the way down since he was going to visit the festival anyway. Asagi comes to pick up the order, and it is miso, soy sauce, and white rice. He knew the quality would be good from Dragonute Village, so he ordered them. This was a result of the little advertisement Ryoma did in their last mission by preparing it for them as dinner. Ryoma asks Asagi if he already used up the share he gave him, and Asagi replies that he didn't, but something happened. He tells them he'd love to explain, but he has to return quickly, so they follow him. They arrive at Mia's house, and as usual, Mia greets Ryoma specially, but Asagi tells her to give him a break at least, pointing it out to her that Ryoma is confused. Mia and Asagi plan on running a stall at the Foundation Festival too, and Ryoma asks them why. Earlier that day, Mia tells Asagi to make the tempura Ryoma made after they beat the Treants. He asks her why she didn't go, and asks Ryoma, and she tells him it's because she found out he's busy. Asagi makes the meal for her, and after she enjoys the meal, she tells him that the world must know about the delicious thing, so she suggests that they sell it at the Foundation Festival. Ryoma and Pioro have a taste of the vegetable tempura, and they find out that it's delicious, and they tell him that they'll look forward to his tempura stand. They tell Ryoma that they also plan to sell white rice and miso soup as well, since the white rice and miso soup are sweet with the tempura. After thinking it through clearly, Ryoma suggests that they make it so they can eat while walking. He gives them a sample and calls it tenmusu. On their way there, they thank Ryoma and Pioro, and promise to visit Ryoma's stall at the festival. Pioro breaks off on their way and tells Ryoma that he'll stop by his place and say hi the next day. Takun and Kufo watch Ryoma, and even Fernobilia comes outside of his realm to join them in watching Ryoma. He tells Kufo and Takun that the slime research Ryoma is doing could lead to good effects on the magical properties of the world. The Foundation Festival begins, and Ryoma first heads to Asagi and Mia's stall to greet them. He tells them he'll stop by later, and they wish him good luck as he takes his leave also. While Ryoma is heading to his store, He hears the tune and recognizes it. Pranance just finished playing the harp, and he tells them that the tune they just heard is the piece the Semroid troupe will be performing on stage at night. He tells them that the very same tune can be played on the music box magic item anytime they please. Ryoma meets with them, and Serge tells him that the music box seems to be gaining popularity. Ryoma tells him that it is thanks Semroid troupe for their advertisement. Denome's workshop at Celeborn produces the music box in mass, and they plan to widen the sales network soon. Ryoma goes to his stall and is surprised to see a large crowd queuing for their food. He quickly joins in to help them. He asks Dolce to help with managing the lines. The customers enjoy their meal, and while Dolce takes on the task that Ryoma gave him, Jane tells Ryoma to ask Selma for more stir-fry. Selma is already working on the stir-fry while Ryoma asks Fina to make more grain tea. Ryoma makes a cooking tool based on transformed slime, and the tool helps them to quickly and easily cut the vegetables. Ryoma takes all of the waste to the scavenger slimes and tells them to take care of it. Worgen meets with them, and he sees that Ryoma is busy. Ryoma suddenly remembers that Beck and the others have been working non-stop and haven't had time to enjoy the festival, so he asks Worgen to take them out to see the festival. Beck disagrees with Ryoma and tells him that they're busy and they can't just take off and go play. Carla, Kalkin, Tony, and Lobelia arrive and tell them that they can take care of the work. Carla tells Ryoma that they've heard from Callum and are around to help. Carla tells Ryoma that the second shop in Loff is being handled by the new hires, and Ryoma is relieved because they can now get everyone working at the first shop to take turns and breaks. Carla tells him that it means he should rest too. She tells him that it is his first Foundation festival, so he should enjoy it. He tells her that there are a few things he needs to take care of. Ryoma makes the ice sculpture, and Prenance is happy seeing it. Serge and Pioro meet with Ryoma on his way out of the store, and they ask that they speak with him. He serves them tea, and they compliment the tea and ask where he got the grains from. He tells them it's from the hometown of some of his employees. He tells them that it couldn't be sold at their hometown, so they have many left over. Immediately after hearing it, they grab on the opportunity to turn it into a proper business. Ryoma talks to Jane, Fina, and Maria about it, and they are excited because they know it'll help the lives of their people back home. Ryoma finally gets the chance to take his break, so he first heads out to Asagi and Mia's stall to have tenmusu and miso soup. He enjoys the meal and tells them that he'll advertise it to his employees. A lost child comes out from nowhere and starts to cry, looking for his mom. Ryoma calms the child down and asks the child different questions, but the child doesn't give any answer. Mia suggests that they take the child to the guards, as his mother might be looking for him too. The child hugs Ryoma, and Ryoma tells him to let them look for his mom. Ryoma introduces himself to the child, and the child tells him his name is Theo. He asks Theo if he came with his mom, and Theo tells him that he did, and this is his first festival. He meets Glycella on his way, and she asks if Theo is lost. Ryoma tells her he's taking Theo to the guard's office. Glycella tells him that he has established himself as a citizen. She asks him how life is in Gimul compared to life in the forest. Ryoma doesn't know which one is better because the forest has its perks. Theo reunites with his mother, and she thanks Ryoma. Later at night, the Semroid troupe starts their stage play with Sardio and Miaya carrying out their performance. Ryoma makes a new dish, which he calls fried noodles. He tells Selma that there are many ways to flavor it, but he's keeping it simple with salt. She tells him that she'll try cooking it for lunch one day. They finish making the food for the after party, and Callum brings something to Ryoma's notice. He tells him that the Semroid troupe isn't around yet, and Ryoma tells him that they may be having trouble cleaning up their stage. He decides to check on them, and when he gets there, he sees them wrapping something and wonders what they're doing. He tells them that he came to invite them to the after party and ask what they're doing. They tell him it's the statue of Manoai Loa. Ryoma remembers the name from one of the myths. He asks if it's the divine being of wind, and he's told that it is. Prenance tells him that it is also a divine being of travel and arts, which is why traveling artists often worship it. Maya tells him that they're just dressing the statue. She tells him that they buy a piece of clothing in that town and wrap it on the statue as their expression of thanks to the divine being when they experience something memorable. At the after party, Ryoma addresses everyone and thanks them for their hard work at the Foundation Festival. Beck walks up to Ryoma and tells him that the festival was fun and every one of them was able to buy something from the pay they were given. He thanks Ryoma and asks him if he also enjoyed his first festival. Ryoma tells him he did, and he thanks Carla for coming to help. Carla tells him she also enjoyed her first Foundation Festival. Maya asks Ryoma if he wants to perform with them to wrap up the night, and he agrees to do it. Ryoma knows the day is one which he will never forget. After the performance, Serge compliments Ryoma's sword dancing and music. Ryoma thanks him and asks for one request. He tells him that the Foundation Festival became a day he will never forget, so he asks Serge to create 2 special music boxes. He sends one to Eliara and tells her that he's glad he came to Gimul, a place he can call home.